Great. So, I'm audible?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, let's start the day, guys, because we have some exciting stuff for today. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from all parts of the world who have registered for the great event happening today. Hope you and your family are doing safe in COVID times. Our best wishes are with all of you. And my colleague just now, Arvind, have raised a slide about Digit 7, who's a technology partner for us. So you can just click on the slide and there's a pin option. When you click on the pin, it will become big for all of you. And you can see the slide. I'll give a small introduction about Digit 7 in the later part. So today we are having a great, unique event related to how emerging technologies help improve shopping experience, customer experience, and strengthen operation for retail industry as a whole. Along with a great talk, we have a couple of power-packed panel discussion themed around personalized experiences driven by AI. That is the first one. And the second one is transformation and retail innovation with emerging technologies. That's the theme of the second panel discussion. I'm sure both will add a flavor and also provide you deep insight into how retail industry is getting transformed even by emerging technologies. Now to begin with, let me introduce myself and the company to you. My name is Nitin Naveen and I will be your host for the day. I'm working as Vice President Innovation and Strategy at AI CodeSpot. Further, I have been joined by my colleague Arvind and Naveen, who will also assist me in keeping the event lively and resolving technical glitches if it comes in between. So, thanks a lot to them for putting in such a hard work and making this one a huge success. We'll try to provide a seamless experience to all of you so that you can gain maximum output out of the today's event. So let me provide a brief background to all of you about AI Code Spot first. We started last year, backed up by our technology partner Digit 7. Our focus is to provide all of you a deep dive in all the sectors wherever technology is there. And every month, the theme is different. Also, we are gaining momentum month on month. Our aim is to be number one AI driven community all over the world so that like minded people like you can be a part of the same in supporting, growing, and making it a success. We'll continue to do industry backed webinars and hybrid events. And when the market will sustain, obviously, we'll start also with the face to face events. The knowledge repository will be made from reliable data through industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and also very important, our technology partner, Digit 7, because they are very good in the technology in Industry 4.0. We'll enrich the content through videos, blogs, podcasts, newsletters, and digital content to shed light on this ever evolving industry. Our mission as a company is to serve as a hub for information regarding all the technologies which is coming into the market like AI, machine learning, deep learning, digital twin, AR, VR, robotics, blockchain, IoT, drones, analytics, 5G, edge AI, edge computing, cloud, and so on. Whichever new technology will come, we'll try to get into that. Today's event is one series of events which we have planned for this year around this emerging technology. It's power packed with speakers presentation and panel discussion. The theme is obviously around role of technology in retail industry. And I think you must all be gearing up for this. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well. If I'll just give you an idea what we are focusing on. So the focus is on factories. How smart is the factories? How smart is the supply chain going to be in the next few years? Tag annotation means how is the image recognition, tag annotation will change the industry. Metaverse is one of the virtual worlds which is coming up. So we'll also try to focus on that as well. Aviation, how the aviation is getting transformed due to the emerging technologies, and so on. So we'll try to get latest topics, latest insights into all these things, and we'll continue to do that. So request all of you who are there to go to our website, that is aicoursport.io, for further updates. Also, please like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer in the coming months. Before starting with the day, I would like to highlight few things so that it can set up the tone for the amazing learning and networking day. And I cannot start without mentioning about Digit 7 because Digit 7 is our technology partner. We are lucky to have Chitrai Mani, who is the CEO of Digit 7, recently elevated as CEO, and he will also help in moderating the first panel discussion. So thanks a lot to Chitrai for putting in this work, especially as they have helped us in understanding our vision and supporting us to create a platform through which we can help achieve our objectives. Their support is immense and they have provided us a push to create awareness about the emerging technologies in the Industry 4.0 era. So thanks a lot to them. Some introduction about Digit 7. So everybody of you can see a slide. There's one slide which I tried to put to give you an insight about Digit 7, what they are about. Innovation is the cornerstone for Digit 7. And at Digit 7, they create unique products and platforms catering to the Industry 4.0 who is looking out for innovation. Their products are designed to solve real-time problems and are customizable to suit anyone's business. Adding to that, the products which they have can scale up at ease as the business grows. This is the unique point of them. Further, their associations with trusted brands such as AWS, Microsoft Azure, IBM, Microsoft, SaaS, Adobe, Salesforce, Sterling Commerce, amongst others, helps them constantly upskill practitioners and champion the partner's best delivery methodologies. Professionally, they are also closely associated with tech titans, Forbes Technology Council, CompTIA, Richardson IQ, University of Texas Dallas, and many more technology partners to leverage their contrasting standpoints and diverse skill sets. In a very short span of time, Digit 7 has created storm in the market with 15 plus patents, which speaks of itself. As every one of you can see in the slide, they have four great products mentioned in the slide. I'll quickly touch upon all of them so that you can get a glimpse of that. First one is Digit 7 Digital Shelves, which is IoT driven shelves and transforms retail with reliable and accurate on shelf inventory management system. The second one, which you can see, is Digit 7 Tag Square, which is AI-powered auto annotator with 80% downsized hands-on work. It is the optimal automation solution suitably designed for all deep learning and computer vision applications, including object recognition, behavior analysis, and facial recognition. A third one is Digit 7D Grab, which is a tech-driven, frictionless, cashier-less store for a super simplified shopping experience that lets you shop in and out faster. And the beauty is that it's easier and much convenient than online shopping. Fourth one is Digit 7 Fly Robo, which is remote management of inventory at the retailer's end. Amongst all the great features, it is designed to fly indoors where GPS is not accessible. This is a very important point. One can gain 10 times more impact on inventory counts with smart drone technology while keeping a stock of inventory effortlessly. The beauty about all the four products which Digit 7 is having is that they are customizable, cost effective, and can be used in every industry where technology is needed. To understand more in depth, connect with them, and to suggest any aspect, all of you can go through their website, that is digit7.io, and closely liaison with them. Also, thanks to our community partners for today, which includes Infovision, Balfour, the Kraft Heinz Company, Jade, Wire Delivery, Kaiser Roth Corporation, Retail Strategic Group, MJ, Choice, and Model Number Furniture to make this event a success. A special mention to speakers and attendees of the event who registered and came today to achieve their objectives through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain few things out of this or get to network with each other, then our core objectives as a platform will be achieved. Further, if anybody wants to ask questions, they can type in the Q&A section, which is there at the right side of the menu option. You can type in as and when the speaker speaks, and we'll try to get it answered after each talk or as per the time permitted. There's also a hand button like this, which you can see on the right side on the bottom of the screen, through which you can even raise the hand and come to the stage to ask questions to speakers as well. So I leave it to all of you, but try to ask the questions as and when the speakers. This is very important so that we are in tune with the time. Now, I'll quickly go through the agenda and let you get introduced to the speakers and their topics. Let me try to share the screen. Hope my screen is visible. So we have first speaker Hemant, who is Innovation Practice Head, Retail and Consumer Goods, Infovision. His topic is enhancing customer experience through AI-based personalization. Then we have panel discussion, great panel discussion moderated by Chitrai, who's the CEO of Digit 7. Topic is personalized experiences driven by AI. We have Arvind Kashyap, CIO of Balfour. Mir Ali is head of engineering, the Kraft Heinz company. Mark is their SVP, commercial operations, Jane. Michelle is their co-founder and CEO, Wire Delivery. And Emil is their senior director, digital commerce, Kaiser Roth Corporation. So this panel discussion will last for around 1.5 hours. Then another panel discussion is there, which is around an hour's time. Topic is transformation and retail innovation with emerging technologies, moderated by Lisa, who is principal and founder, Retail Strategic Group. Then we have Chris, CEO and board member, MJ. Mike is their founder and CEO of Choice, and Philip Robb is their CEO of Model Number Furniture. And then we'll have the thank you note from my side. So hope it is clear and all is set for the amazing day. I'll hand over the stage to Hemant to do the first talk for the day.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, Hemant. In the meanwhile, Hemant is sharing the screen. So Hemant is the innovation practice head for InfoVision. He's specialized guy in retail and consumer goods. So over to you, Hemant, to do the talking and to take the session forward. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Nathan. So hope everyone is able to view my screen. Like I've shared my screen. Yep. So first of all, I would like to thank the Nathan and AI CodeSpot team for having me here and getting me introduced to the great leaders in the retail space. So retail is a very robust industry, right? Like I have seen experts in this particular call, especially right across the different parts of retail. And Nathan had asked me to do justice in the 25 minutes what he has given me, to talk to about or share my thoughts on one of the interesting topics, that is AI, right? How do we leverage AI in solving some of the core business problems in retail, and how the industry is progressing towards automation and leveraging AI in dealing with their day-to-day challenges. So myself, Hemant, like being an innovation head at InfoVision, focusing on retail, I'm more of a retail guy. Anything and everything I do from a personalized shopping experience, I put myself in the shoes of a consumer. Being customer obsessed, I would see whether I am getting the right experience. What would a common customer think about something that is happening now? So I'm more related to retail, and AI is something which I do for my living. So this is a great experience for me to be a part of this discussion and talk to you all about my thoughts on how we can leverage AI in solving some of the critical problems across retail. So retail being a very robust industry, like right from a small convenience store till all the way till a multi-speciality retail or home improvement or home decors. So there is a lot of categorization within retail, and each of them have their own problem statements, and they are trying to solve them using AI. So the next few minutes, what I'm going to take is to talk to you a bit about the leveraging AI across the value chain of retail, the business trends. As a innovation head, what I have been seeing with my customers and the way the research what we have put across, and just share some thoughts to the best possible extent. So to start with AI application in retail, like there are a lot of touch points for AI across the retail value chain, but I'm just touching upon the ones which are pretty hot in the market. People talk about it, and a lot of industry focus on this, right? So right from the supply chain, smart supply chain management, like the warehouse automation, using computer vision across the value chain of supply chain. And we have seen industries focusing on building digital twins on processes like the supply chain management, where they would want to get a 360-degree view of their overall process and see the areas of optimization, and definitely make strategic decisions in saving on the sustainable inventory. Right from there, the product pricing predictions, leveraging computer vision and AI for the inventory management, like using smart shelves, or providing a personalized customer experience through chatbots, right? Giving them the contextual help, or all the way to a cashier-less store. Like cashier-less store is the talk of the town, right? Like where industries are focusing on building automated stores, providing the customers with that most convenience, and personalizing the customer experience, and a lot of touch points like the retail has got. But my talk is going to be more focused on personalizing the customer experience across the retail value chain. So what we have been seeing in the industry today is like consumers have too many options out, right, when it comes to what they need to choose and from whom they need to choose. So before even we get into those insights, I would want to talk a bit about the customer segmentation, right? So we have loyalists who are pretty aware on what they need to buy and where they need to buy. Like they have a pretty solid decision on where and what they need to buy. And then the next category is about the hoppers, like who often go around to shop for anything and everything, right? They don't have a specific brand or a specific thought. So like what they do is, for anything they want, they go around and then decide on a particular experience. And the third is the hybrid. We call them as what to say, the neutralists. So they have, for specific set of products, they have a stickiness towards a brand, and for the rest they prefer shopping around to get the best deals out. So that is a crux, is what I would say. The customer segmentation is a crux before even we start thinking of personalization. So what we have been seeing in market is consumers are willing to share basic information. There is a large chunk of customers who wants to share the basic information to get a personalized experience, and that's like a huge number, like 81% is what we see. And some are out of which the large chunk of customers are engaging with the brands where they feel recognized. When I say like they feel recognized, like when you provide your phone number, for example, right, to a particular retail brand, and there is definitely a value that you expect out of it. Like you provide your number, you opt in for receiving text messages, and you turn on your notifications on the app, and you provide your location information for better experience. So as a consumer, you provide what all is required, by a retail brand, and in turn you expect something from the retailers to be taken care of, right? And that is something which we have been seeing across. When a customer is already in your retail funnel, right, when they are in your loyalty or retail funnel, and it's up to the retailer to take care of them, right, and provide them with an personalized experience. And the customers are likely to shop with brands that provide contextual recommendations, rather like going with generic stuff. I mean, as a consumer, I always want to get to know about the deals and offers that I like the most, or that is something relevant to me, rather that's pretty generic. And the interesting fact is, there is a small group of customers who are willing to pay a higher cost to get that personalized experience. And as a result, right, of personalization, we have been seeing companies making good ROI from their overall personalization efforts. So this is not something which is anticipated, but people have already been there, and they have done that. So when it comes to the consumer behavior and expectations, right, and when we talk about the current state of personalization, what we hear from customers in common is there is a lot of room for improvement when it comes to enhancing the customer experience through AI personalization. So there are still areas where a customer feel that they are frustrated when things are not personalized. So with the different demographies, customer demographies, right? Like the millennials and the Gen Zs are the ones who are more digital savvy, and they are lot on the digital front, right? Even with that particular group, there is a frustration when they receive some generic marketing or email content, and when they walk into a particular retail outlet, they always want to be recognized and get contextual help in terms of their shopping experience. And the interesting thing I would want to highlight here is, there is this 47% of customer who, when they are within the ecosystem of a customer's retail, if they are not seeing contextual recommendations or product suggestions, right, then immediate next thing they do is they get into an online retail space and start surfing for like details. So that's one of the common problem statement, right? Like, and for that sake, though the retail is robust, uh, one of the common problem statement is like, having the customers within their retail funnel, right? And how do they compete with the online retail space, and how like do they increase the frequency of the visits into their ecosystem. So there is this like overall inference that, like, there are that the industry can certainly improve a lot in terms of bringing in personalized experience for consumers. And getting into the AI, right? So how AI improves a customer experience. Like, let's take a step like, behind, and let's talk about the customer loyalty before even we get into the personalization space. So there are certain factors that we see that are critical for driving the loyalty within the customer group. So the overall customer experience is something that stands out, where, like, right from the moment a person receives a marketing material or a marketing information, and all the way, like, the customer driving to the store or getting into the ecosystem, making a purchase, and then providing a feedback, that overall customer experience stands first. And personalization, product quality and branding, product pricing, so all of these five, like, criterias, right? You see like AI touch points across the value chain. And the overall customer experience, that is something that stands out even in the online space. If you see, like, we have one of the research says that the customer experience stands, like, as the top priority for consumers in terms of being loyal to a particular brand than the pricing and the other factors. So now, tying that to the AI, right? So how does AI help in getting there? So the very first thing that retailers are struggling today is where, like, to have the customers within their ecosystem. How do you onboard a customer into your ecosystem? And there is a lot of dropout rate when during that particular onboarding process. And leveraging the common factors, right? Like, having that intelligence, you already know, like, what are the problem statements or what are the issues that the customers encounter during onboarding. And when you have that intelligence and tying that back to your onboarding system, right, that would help customers in, like, getting into the ecosystem pretty easily. So not just by, like, providing them with the initial like, offers or coupons, but not beyond that, there is some intelligence that can be applied on top of your current onboarding process that will help you in, the easy onboarding of your customers. And the second thing is, once you have your customer in your ecosystem, that the next toughest thing is to retain them within your channel. So how do you do that? But as a customer, when I get into a customer, when I get into a retail ecosystem and try to search for something what I want, like, there is a lot of improvement that can like, happen in the search space, right? Like, leveraging AI is one of the core aspects, like, where, like, I can receive the contextual help. So when I am looking for a particular product search, or like, looking for a specific product, and when you have my information, right, I have provided you my demographic information, you have my onboard, like, details, like, when I have given you, and I would, like, look for something that is more contextual when it comes to search. And AI plays a critical part in getting me the right experience out there. And real-time decisioning and predictive intelligence, that's an important aspect of an overall customer journey, right? So when a customer is searching for a particular product, and he is pretty interested in getting it from your brand, and there is a bit of confusion whether whether I'm making the right decision and buying the right brand in the right place. And how that is something where AI can, like, take a lead role and provide the customers and get them an assurity that, hey, like, this is the best you could get out in the market, and rest assured, like, this is something which you are in the right time and making the right decision out. And also as the, like, the most important component being the customer support, right? How do you personalize the support, like, implying machine learning, predictive analytics, and like, you have the intelligence on the common customer issues that you often come across. And when you tie that back to your customer support experience, and there is a lot, like, the customer will feel recognized during that particular process. And proactive help, contextual help during the process of customer support. A simple example is like, you have purchased a product from a particular retail outlet, and you have initiated a return through your mobile or the web device. And the moment when you walk into the store, if the mobile app tells you that, hey, thanks for coming, and we know that you have returns, that isn't there, here is what you need to do. And that is a simple example of you having an intelligence of what the customer's intention is, and then providing them the contextual help. The same thing applies for the search. As a customer, I would have searched a couple of products couple of times on the through various digital channels. But when I'm at the right place, why not, why wouldn't I get a help from the retailer saying that, hey, you have been looking for such an item, and since you're already here, this is what it is. So there is a lot that can AI can help in the overall customer journey. So talking about the data related challenges, right? So the crux of personalization is data. And out of our interaction with the customers and the research we have done so far, and we see that the common problem statement what we hear from the industry is that there is a too much of unstructured data within the ecosystem, right? Everyone claims to have data with them, but the $1 billion question is how consumable it is, right? And can I use that particular data to drive a campaign and do an analytics saying that, hey, whether this particular initiative is moving my needle or not. And when you don't have that structured data, or have a 360-degree view of your own customers, then it's going to be a little hard to get into the roots of the results of your campaign. So that's something which you have been hearing. Next to that, there is a lot of other challenges, lack of resources to interpret the output of analytics, and difficulty in localizing the data insights, and data silos. That's pretty common, right? We have different data sources across systems within your ecosystem, and unifying all together is a challenge. And there is a lot of improvement that can happen in the process of ensuring your overall data quality. So, moving on to leveraging the AI personalization for better customer experience. Right? I mean, I know this slide is pretty content heavy, but I'm going to briefly touch upon the important aspects of customer profiling. Right. So there are types of data that you capture during your onboarding process, right? The behavioral cues, the transactional and demographic data, and when you have all this data with you, and definitely AI can help out in doing a magic in terms of your overall personalization. One is on the global recommendations based on what's happening out in the market and what's new, and the trends out in the market, you throw out recommendations. And next is more on the contextual part. So based on your search history, or based on the context, you get the help from the retailer on similar products that's out, and looking for the right product at the right time and the right shopper, and the proximity messaging. These are a couple of good examples of how contextual a recommendation could be. And when it comes to the personalized recommendations, it's about your buying history, the buying pattern, and when you have already been engaged with a brand, when you get into their ecosystem, you getting a contextual help, or the contextual recommendations based on what you've done in the past. So they already know who you are and what your buying pattern is. And instead of you going through something generic in terms of the experience, what if you get everything personalized right from your rewards menu? You are in the loyalty ecosystem, and you have points, or you have ways to redeem your loyalty points. And in case if you have given an option to choose based on your own interests, that's something what customers want today. And last but not the least, when we all know, we are already in the state of maturity where we don't need to hard sell AI to a particular industry. So they all know the importance, but it's all about how and where, and we get started, and how do we imply. The very first thing what we would recommend our customers is to have a unified customer data across different channels, and then creating a snapshot of an individual customer, and use that for personalization, and use that data for one-on-one advertising and messaging, right? and personalizing the customer experience through different channels. Like we have, everyone talks about omni channel today, and implying AI to get the customers the right recommendations, the right offers, and make the customer feel recognized. And the important aspect of this is to capture a feedback from the customer and use the predictive feedback through the customer journey and to enhance their overall experience. Eventually, though the retail is pretty robust, the common problem statements are to improve the stickiness of the customer loyalty towards the brand, improve the frequency of visits, then drive the traffic into the store, and improve the basket size. So though the retail has different segmentation, these are a couple of the common problem statements they have today. And definitely AI is going to be a game changer in case if that is being used in the right way. So that's pretty short thoughts sharing I wanted to do with this particular thing. We have all been there, and we have gone through a lot of challenges, and this is something which I wanted to share with everyone. And here is my contact information. For any further details, I would love to get in connect with you and take things forward from there. Thank you, team.
Thank you, Hemant. Thank you for the lovely presentation. The first presentation, and obviously the game changer for the particular day, and your theme, enhancing customer experience through AI-based personalization, has obviously set up the tone for the day. And I think everyone must have enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed to listen about you through all the data challenges, all the AI-driven things, what you are doing. I think it's a lovely thing. Thanks a lot, Hemant, for the first talk. We'll move on to our next talk. But before that, any one of you have any questions to Hemant, you can type in the Q&A section, which is there on the right side. Uh, we'll wait for 1 minute. And in the meanwhile, the other speakers, who's the second panel, and who's the first panel discussion, basically, by Chitray, Arvind, Mir, Mark, Michelle, Emil. So all they can come on the video format, and we can start with the first panel discussion if we don't have any questions. We'll wait for 1 minute. Just to have an insight to you all guys, we'll share the presentation of Hemant with all of you on email so that you all have the idea, and you can always connect with Hemant for further connections and further knowledge investment. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hemant.
Thanks.
Thanks. So, guys, Chitra is there. Arvind, yeah, I can see you. Mir, Mark, Michelle, Emmy. If you all can come on the video mode so that we can start with our first panel discussion.
I think they might have thought about it 9:30. Oh, they're available. Okay.
Yeah. I know 9:30 is the time. We are before time. We have got ample time. That's why I wanted to spend time with all of you guys. I think we have a great leaders in this panel discussion. So we have good amount of time. We will let everyone join. I think Mir is also here now. So Arvind, Mir, I can see Michelle is there. Emil is there. Only Mark has to join. So Mark will be there very soon. So we can start with the discussion, Chitrai. Over to you.
Sure. Absolutely. 1 minute.
Yeah.
One minute. 1 minute.
Sure.
May இல்ல இது ஊத்துற மாதிரி இருக்கும். Okay, let's start. Are you able to see me, Nitin?
We cannot see you, Chitrai. We can hear you.
How about now? Yes.
Yes. Perfect.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking time and joining this event. AI CodeSpot is definitely a leading event-driven company. I'm seeing a lot of growth and very important speakers, reputed speaker in the industry. Kudos to Nitin's team.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you others to join. We would like to take a quick moment. Let me introduce quickly myself to all of you. I'm CEO of Digit7, and I have been doing in the technology industry for almost 17 years. And in the retail industry, especially almost 9 years, I'm part of in multiple companies, 7-Eleven, we talk about Home Depot, we talk about even a lot of companies we have been part of a retail industry perspective, Pizza Hut, like that. And we observe a lot of problem, how it is evolving in technology for the last 7 8 years. The trend of technology is keep changing. We have been seeing how it is changing, how it is evolving, how it is adapting and embracing to the technology. We have very clear eye on it. So that's what we built a product for cashier-less store, tax square, and a non-GPS based drone warehouse inventory management solution, as well as the D-shops like that we built it. And I'm a core techie guy, and I'm a CTO of Information currently a new role as a CEO of Digit7 as well. That's a quick introduction about me, and I would like to take others to quickly have a quick introduction of quickly in 30 seconds. Would be really great as well. I can start with Arvind.
Sure. Thanks, team. My name is Arvind Kashyap. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, CIO and the Chief Security Officer for Balfour & Co., very iconic company in the American industry. We've been in the business for 109 years now. We do everything for our students in schools and colleges. So we are behind your yearbooks. We are the company that produces caps and gowns. We are responsible for all the photographs that your children take in the school. And we also make rings, both the championship rings as well as the graduation rings. 11 manufacturing facilities in the US. We deal directly with customer and consumers. So we work with parents, we work with students, we work with parents, we also work with schools and advisors. So pretty exciting to be part of this discussion. While we are a mixture of 4 different industries. So we are in the retail industry because we sell direct to customer and consumer. We are a consumer goods company because we actually manufacture our own caps and gowns and yearbooks and rings. We are also a media entertainment company because end of the day we produce memories for our students. And then the last thing, we are also in the publishing business. We run large printing presses where we produce roughly about anywhere between 800,000 to 1 million yearbooks every year. So it's a very interesting company, and really waiting to see how we share some of the knowledge with others.
Thanks, Arvind. Nice introduction. Why can't Amir can go next?
Hello, good morning, everybody. Amir Ali here. So I'm first of all, thank you to the team here to inviting me to be part of this panel, and I see a lot of experience here that I'm looking forward to learn from all of you here and share my experience. A little bit about myself. I've been in the technology industry for about 22 years plus, and worked on many roles. But currently, I am part of the Kraft Heinz company. So, assuming here 90% or of people in America has one or more products of Kraft Heinz at home. So it should be a household brand, and people should really connect to it when we talk about Kraft Heinz, especially the mac and cheese, the ketchup, the sauces, and the salad dressing, is many more. My role here in Kraft Heinz, I lead the software engineering group as part of the digital, Kraft Heinz Digital. And my focus here is 2 things. Number one, to lead the architecture and the engineering team to really drive digital within the organization. What that means translates to drive revenue and increase profitability, right? So digitization, that's the key. And the goal that we have tried to do here from a digital perspective is to really bring in AI into all aspects of what we do end to end, all the way from acquiring goods all the way to getting to the customer. So a little bit about myself, and I live in Chicago. So it's about
Thanks, Mir. Thanks for the nice introduction. Really good. And the next, Mark, you would like to take it?
Hey everybody, Mark Spencer. I'm Senior Vice President of Commercial Operations at Jane.com. We're based in Lehi, Utah, just south of Salt Lake City. We're an online fast fashion marketplace for women's apparel and home decor. We work with about 3,500 sellers, anything from mom and pop sellers to big brands. We operate on a demand business, demand marketing business. So we put deals up for between 3 and 7 days, and kind of when they're gone, they're gone. So we're still operating in that world, although we are likely transitioning to a more traditional marketplace throughout the rest of this year, where we will extend those selling periods. Personally, in my role, I look after all the merchandising side, supply teams, merchandising, customer service. As you can tell, I'm from the UK, although I reside in Vancouver. And my background has been online marketplaces for the last 20 years, where I focus on international growth and expansion, as well as commercial opportunities within those marketplaces. So thrilled to be on this panel. Thrilled to learn a lot of information from my fellow panelists, and excited to be here.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the introduction. Mitchell, you would like to go?
Yeah. Hi, Mitchell Nikitin here, CEO and co-founder of Via Delivery. Pretty much 14 years right now in supply chain and D2C brand space. Right now in Via Delivery, we are developing this concept of buy online, pick up anywhere experience. If you know BOPIS as buy online, pick up in store for, say, Target or Walmart, well, now we extend this to the point where you, being a D2C brand, can utilize more than 20,000 pickup locations nationwide as your own network, as your own brick and mortar presence. So that's us, based in Palo Alto, California today, and excited to be here with you.
Great. I'm seeing a lot of books behind him. I don't know if there's a picture or really books. There's a lot of books. There's a picture of a real book.
Yeah. No, these are really, that's a real
It's
book.
the actual word.
So it's not a background.
Okay.
It's not version.
Emil, please go ahead. Emil.
Hi everybody. My name is Emil Consuelo. I'm the head of digital commerce for Kaiser Roth Corporation. I lead everything that's not brick and mortar, and that which translates to like sales, merchandising, digital marketing, paid advertising, operations, customer service, even e-commerce infrastructure, cybersecurity, emerging technology applications for all the brands, both in the US and international. Personally, I've been in the e-commerce industry, direct-to-consumer e-commerce industry for 16 years. Yeah, I'm glad to be on this panel.
Thanks, Emil. I think it's a good about all the leaders. Let me start with some of the nice questions of how we are going to debate, all of us. Hopefully it's going to be a friendly debate, not a fighting debate. Okay, so let me start with I don't know, it's a kind of the points I don't know. I'm hearing in the industry mostly. Do retail industry is the one quickly embracing to the latest technology, or is other technologies coming too fast than us? So because you guys are all of them in the retail industry, so who would like to take this question, and why retail is the one picking up very faster than other technology, other industries in this kind of latest example? VR, it may be around the blockchain, it may be on any kind of machine learning adaptation, prediction, customer experience. Everything retail is moving faster than others. Who would like to take these questions? Arvind, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. Retail there are three forces that are happening within the retail industry that I see from Balfour and Co. The number one force is customers have a choice, and if we are not able to provide the right product at the right price at the right place at the right time, using the right channel, we lose the customer. So I think that is really becoming a reality. I think customers have a choice that they can go and not just shop around, right? Shopping around was always there. It's also their ability to buy, make decisions, even defer a decision. I think the worst scenario that we are seeing is customers are deferring their decisions for a future. So I think that one force that's coming in, and technology is really required to address that. The second force that we are seeing is it's about crushing cost, right? End of the day, retail is becoming a difficult industry to be in, because the expectation from the manufacturers, expectations from the customer, and you are trying to match that. And I think that is a true reality for most of the retailers. We have rising commodity prices, we have rising manufacturing prices, we have supply chain issues that needs to be dealt with, and yet we got to manage the price point at which the customer wants to buy it. So crush cost is a second, and technology plays an important role in that second lever. The third force that we are seeing in the industry is this whole idea of how do we create customers for lifetime, right? While I know one and done customers are great, that we would like customers to come in and buy the product and really benefit from that. But how do we make customers repeatable customers, right? And really become loyal to the brand and continue to do that, right? And technology plays an important role in that third area. And really understanding that customers' sentiment, customers' buying pattern, customers' purchasing power, and really servicing that particular one customer, the power of one customer, and turning that one customer into a lifetime customer, so that the acquisition cost, customer acquisition cost, goes down. So these three levers, as I see in the industry, is hitting us really hard. Technology is playing an important role in all the three aspects of it, whether it is grow sales, whether it is crush cost, whether it is turning a customer into a lifetime customer, and various technologies, right? It's not just, I wouldn't call this only front office technologies. There's significant other back office technologies that are being part of it, right? Making supply chain smart, making customer service smart, making manufacturing and production control smart, making retail and merchandising smart. Obviously the front office part of it is making sales and e-commerce smart, but technology plays an important role on all the aspects. And I think the last couple of years, pandemic has actually accelerated that significantly, because retailers saw less footfalls. Retailers saw less number of customers walking in for various reasons, right? Stores were not open, customers were not walking in, and their buying patterns have all changed significantly in the last couple of years. So like any other industry, I think retail is in the forefront, and retail is driven by technology for a very, very long time. And these three forces definitely are impacting the way the retail technology experts, or the retail industry, and the CIOs and the CTOs in the retail industry are able to address that as well.
Thank you, Arvind. Who would like to take the same question? Mark?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, Arvind. You talk about it from a tech standpoint. I'm not a tech person, and so I'm certainly not going to get into a tech conversation. Otherwise, I will probably be booted off the call very quickly. But I look at this more from a marketing standpoint. Arvind, you talk about some important aspects there. I think one of the things that we really think about, and that we're really struggling, where personalization comes in, or technology right now comes into this, is on that acquisition cost, as well as the attribution. Since iOS 14, iOS 15 last year, Amir, you'll probably know a lot more about this than I. But that attribution, understanding where our customer is coming from as an online platform, is really challenging. There's a little bit of a black hole there now with regards to that, and I think it's only going to get worse. what has that done? That's driven costs up significantly. Driving a customer to the site is significantly more expensive. And again, for folks, I'm an online marketplace, not retail. So driving folks that side to the side is significantly more. We see costs now typically around 40% higher as a CPM than they were this time last year. And so the importance placed on when you drive that customer and push them through the funnel at the other end, and giving them a great experience, not just on site, but post-sale experience, is absolutely critical, because the cost of driving consumers is only going to increase, I believe. And so we have to ensure that we convert better and convert more. And we have to do that in a way that meets that consumer demand. And Arvind, you talk about that, because online shopping and customer expectation, and the way that people shop has changed over the last few years, particularly since the pandemic came in. Everybody wants instant gratification. Thanks to our friends at Amazon, everybody wants shipping free of charge and arriving, in 6 hours time. And that's the expectation of the consumer. And of course, there's a coherent cost to that. But for me, I think more about how is technology going to help us to not only help us acquire that customer, but more importantly, how do we retain that customer? How do we increase our repeat purchase rate? How do we create a better user experience on site? And equally, how can I use technology post sale to ensure that customer comes back to me, so I do get a far higher LTV. So that's kind of how I look at it, really.
Yeah, you touched on another point, pandemic. Both Arvind and Mark, I think pandemic, Mitchell is more on delivery side. Your business might have boomed up a lot at the time because nobody wanted to get out of the home.
I mean, to try, I'm not going to deny it that probably for 2 weeks in the middle of March 2020, I wondered whether our business was going to survive. And then in knowing then now, I should have taken more of a downtime during that 2 weeks, rather than figuring out how we're going to save the business, because come 30th of March 2020, every day was like a holiday. And so, we actually, there's a lot of data out there. We saw, e-commerce in sales kind of jump forward almost 8 to 10 years within a 1 year period. I think the challenge for me on that is, as the commercial guy, if you want, is, my investors now keep telling me, they keep comparing me back to that year. But it's an important aspect. But yeah, it was very much a situation where we really expedited our growth. And it was a fascinating period, and a lot of learnings. Yeah, there was sales that came in, but also it identified a lot of processes that we perhaps needed to improve and develop, and we have done. And technology, of course, forms part of that, and we're still in that process. So it's we've still not figured it all out. By the way.
So I wanted to add, what Mark said, right? So the pandemic really accelerated commerce. However, when we talk about some of the challenges, at least I've seen or what I've observed, right, in terms of really taking advantage of that period, right? So as a retailer, the technology and the processes were not in place to really implement or contextualize and personalize the experience from a customer's perspective, right? So the processes were still siloed, right? So when we run pricing, promotions, they were still disconnected. So there was the ability to take advantage of that period, and unified the whole commerce, right? Both. So there was challenges in that part. The other piece was more on overall management, right? So during that time, and in general too, it's like, how do we manage our campaigns, and how do we put products, and how do we connect with customers, and how do we loop that whole thing back end to end from a ad spend. So that's an area that's retailers are still struggling. And the last one is that I want to highlight is the in order to really run pricing and promotion effectively, right? So we really have to understand the customer segmentation, and then based on the segmentation, then you do personalization, right? So not every organization has that as a priority to really go figure that out, right? Whether it's implementing a MarTech platform or whatnot. So these are some of the things that um, you know that I've seen in the past. It's seen in general, and then past year, couple of years has been sort of came out quite a bit. And then
So
the
yeah,
question that Mark board and others asking, why can't you really do what you have done before? At that point, it was just a necessary thing because it was no options. And now organization, retailers has to do a lot more to really connect back.
true, true. Absolutely. Thanks for the nice answers. Let me take it to the some important questions as well. How can emerging tech contribute to bridging the gap between e-commerce and retail? Mitchell, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I would willingly take it because I'm more like on supply chain and delivery side of the business. And talking about trends we are looking at for the last couple of years, there are basically two contradicting trends. At one side, as you correctly mentioned, you have Amazon with a free shipping experience, with a fast shipping experience, and that kind of expectation is already like pressed into D2C brands, into like the rest of the market. So online shoppers want a free delivery. But guess what? The volumes of e-commerce deliveries are growing every day, right? And at the same time, the labor market situation combined with inflation drives delivery prices up for any D2C brands. And it's not about the carriers. Carriers, I would say, have to increase their prices just because of the labor market itself, right?
Just to include that point, it is not free. The cost is included already in the product. So
Yeah, yeah.
for marketing, it is okay. I'm not agreeing with that.
Exactly. That's a feeling that if it's free delivery, it's truly free. No, it's always someone's paying for that from this exact purchase, right? And if you have your average purchase being as high as like $100 or a couple of $100, that's fine. You can include the free shipping. Whereas if you sell something for like $15 or $20, well, that's where it gets hard to include like $10 of shipping into the price of the good, right? And that's where it gets like super hard to match with a customer experience of Amazon. So on a delivery space for the last couple of years, that's a major, I would say, drawback and major obstacle that stops D2C brands into developing something like Amazon has in regards to customer experience. There is a trick from major retailers that have both omni-channel and brick and mortar presence, right? If you think about Target or if you think about Walmart, these guys can combine, using their technology, they can combine online experience with the experience of picking it up later in Target. As I mentioned, that's what's called like buy online, pick up in store. And they utilize this technology a lot. Target, for example, they have like up to 45% of their online sales now not being delivered to home addresses. They are now shipped for later, like being picked up in store. And guess what? It's way cheaper for them. So not only they save money, not only they drive extra foot traffic to their stores, they also like overall benefit from a user experience. So now that's another challenge for D2C brand. Hey, how can we match this new customer experience, not only with Amazon, but also with Target and Walmart, just to stay on the play. So these are the trends we are looking at right now in the delivery space. And I believe some technology should definitely, and a stack of technologies, I would say, should definitely be developed in order to help to address this issue with expensive shipping and with this omni-channel experience that customers should have.
Thanks, Mitchell. And Emil, do you like to take that question too?
Yes,
Please,
sure.
please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of like emerging technologies playing a big role in retail, operations and overall in general. I mean, and also bridging offline with online customers. So yeah, emerging technologies right now, there hasn't been a better time for any company, right? Any businesses Because of these emerging technologies, it's possible to be able to um, create a holistic view of like the customer. Like, let's say there are systems that will be able to give you ID resolutions, so that you will be able to have a complete 360 view of like this single customer. It doesn't matter if they buy in brick and mortar or they buy online, as well as, and that will allow you and then also, and that will allow you to have a better grasp of like their purchasing behavior, right? Based on history. But at the same time, you have like these technologies that like, for example, uh, VR and AR, right? So let's say there's like technology in fashion that's like virtual fitting, that will allow you to be able to gather insights on what really the customer wants, right? Like what body sizes as a manufacturer, what products do you actually design for the consumer, for your consumers, right? And then in turn will increase efficiencies, and then you will be able to create better products with lesser waste overall. As far as like fulfillment, of course, because of the pandemic, everybody wants to to have it free, for free, and then fast, as Michelle mentioned. But it is what it is. But if you think about it, this time, because also this is the time where we have like four generations of consumers across the board, like baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. And then these emerging technologies allow us to understand our customers. And if you're a manufacturer with multiple brands, you will be able to create brands or products that will be catered and personalized for these demographics. Yeah.
Sound great. Sound great. Arvind, do you like to take this important question, emerging tech contribution in the, because especially versus more retail perspective and commerce, you're filling the gap between two. Do you like to take how this, for example, AR VR, it's connecting the bridge between the virtual world versus the retail store, right? And e-commerce, three together. So how do you see this tech side? So in your experience in your organization?
Yeah, so for us emerging, especially, we call that as innovation, something that we want to uh, really create a product with differentiation. So the way we look at this whole space is we have products which are very mature, products which continue to provide us the backbone of our company, and then we look at products that are with innovation, and especially that allows us to differentiate in the market, right? I think that's where we're spending our time into. And when it comes to new product development or new innovation, new ideas, it's all the differentiation that we can bring in. The emerging technologies help us to. I think there are two things that are happening in that. One is it's giving us new ideas that we can launch. The second thing is it is emerging technology is also helping us to launch things faster, because time to market becomes very, very important when you consider real business, right? You lose something. For us, it's all the school year is so important for us, because we work with schools, and for us, September is when the school starts. In the end of August, September is when the school starts. And if you don't launch it at least 2-3 months before that, then you lose the whole year for us. So time to market is very important. So emerging technology is helping us to fasten the cycle and really launch new products with differentiation.
Very, very beautiful point. It's helping you to move to the market quickly. That's a very true point. I agree with that definitely. Arvind. The next question is, how does AI help in hyper personalization? Mir, would you like to take this question?
Yeah. So this is something that I talk about, and I shared it, as I was promoting this event. It's like hyper personalization. Like, first of all, understanding what that means, right? So now and we'll talk about, so many generations that are all together in here now, all the way, and they're looking at various channels. We still have those digital flyers all the way to TikTok and everything in between, right? So in order to really meet the customer somewhere in the middle. So as an organization, uh, this is something that needs to be, from a digital and digital marketing perspective, needs to be a priority, right? So in order to really connect to the customers, and hyper personalization includes many things, just not one aspect of it where we have the website, right? It's about personalizing content, the messaging, the targeting, and using your AI enabled avatars, chatbots. I mean, there's so many aspects and so many technology implementation that can come in place to help with the hyper personalization. Now, the key to and the core to this is a platform. Do we have the right foundation that is built in to be able to do that, right? So building the foundation to me is the key in connecting and understanding your consumer and your customer, and and understanding the customer and understanding the behavior, and then being able to segment, right? So once we have all of this information, then you're able to take all of these different means and medias, right? Whether it's Instagram to Facebook to TikTok to, you know, standard, website based or ad based, commercial based, then you can really get out to it. So it sounds overwhelming. However, if you leverage the technology uh, to the correctly and put in the right priority behind it, this will allow us to really connect with our customers, right? So that's the terms. I mean, it's one of those buzzwords, but however, the things behind that is pretty simple. Connect with your customer, understand what they're looking for, and meet them where they want to meet you, right? So if you're Gen Z, I'm always on the go. Just connect me on mobile. Hit me up on mobile. And if somebody is like, for me, I was like, I'm on desktop. Just get me to the, where I am on the website, and in some cases, email too. So it's having that flexibility, being able to meet where the customers are, and having that flexibility to really uh, leverage and understand and target it. So that is going to be a key going forward.
Very, very interesting answer, Mir. I would like to throw the same ball to Mark in a different way. What implications are there regarding hyper personalization, and how do we overcome them?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think this is candidly, this is one of the things that I would love to learn myself, actually, from this expert panel. I think one of the problems that we can run into if we're not careful, and we may or may not be running into that at my company. So I best be careful how I frame this. But excuse me. But there is a risk of being hyper personalized. I mean, we are we're an online marketplace, as I say. We put live around about 700 new deals every day, or drops, as the new phrase is in the world right now, that last for 3 to 5 days, typically 3. But today, if I look on site, I've got the best part of 2,000 deals live today, and which is fine. Now, historically, as an organization, our consumer demographic has enjoyed coming and working or using the site in a discovery based shopping experience, so almost like a shoputainment, I guess, to a certain extent. And so, the fact that we have a dress next to a piece of furniture, next to a picture, next to a pair of jeans or whatever, people like scrolling and finding something that is interesting, an interesting deal for them. Now, as we've moved more into personalization, and we know that we have to go into that way, how do we balance that out by ensuring that, somebody that's coming to the site for a discovery, but maybe are thinking about a shirt, for example, that we don't just serve them up shirts, because we know that's what they've looked for in the past. That's what we know that they're interested in. And we serve them shirts, and we serve them shirts, and we keep serving them shirts until they buy a shirt. That's fantastic. But there are a lot of other products, a lot of other categories, a lot of other items that typically we would have seen added to the cart as people go through that discovery phase. And so I think one of the things for me is how do we use AI, but also it's fueled by the data, right? And so how are we using that data in a scientific way to get that fine balance between personalization, but also satisfying because as a marketplace we have two customers, right? We have our sellers who are customers as well as our consumers. And so how do we ensure that I think it was Mir, you if I'm crediting this wrong, I apologize, but I think it was you, Mir, that said, look, marketplace utopia is right product, right price, right time, from the right seller, front of the right customer, at the right price. Actually, it might have been Aravind, but anyways, one of you guys said it. So apologies. And that's kind of, that's marketplace utopia. Honestly, if we do that as a company, if my colleagues' companies do that, we kind of win, right? But that to me is, how do I ensure that right seller is put in front of the right customer at the right time? And it doesn't always necessarily mean it's so personalized that they don't see other items that they would be interested in. So I think, we have to think more about not just serving up that product, but if we're serving them up a shirt, then how do we think about, hey, what about these jeans or these shoes or these cap or this scarf or whatever it is that goes with that, to see if we can increase that value, but also make it more entertaining or more interesting. And more importantly, and I think this is more around the user experience that we also are working through ourselves. And I mentioned this earlier with regards to figuring out some of the processes with regards once the pandemic came in. But if I'm a consumer and I'm coming into Jane and I scroll through 50, 60, 100 shirts that's not to my liking, maybe actually I don't want a shirt that day. And so, how do I think about what that means in terms of what I'm actually providing you if I come back half an hour later? Okay, and so I think there's a lot of things there. I know it's not necessarily the answer; it's more thoughts that we're thinking about. I would love to hear other people's thoughts around, probably over personalization more than hyper personalization, I guess, because I do think that there is a fine balance between extracting the most value from that customer coming on site in a personalized way to leaving dollars on the table by not showing them other items that they didn't even know existed on the site, particularly on a site like Jane where, it's eclectic. It's, we're a curated site, but, there are lots of fun finds if you want at really incredible prices. And so we maybe are leaving things on the table if we don't get that right. And that's more around the learning and the evolution of our personalization and recommender systems. I get that. But it is an interesting dilemma to a certain extent that we could end up personalization could actually end up become penalization if we're not careful.
That's true.
That's a good point.
Oracle as well. Thanks, Mark. So let me. We are talking about AI, how it is helping in a consumer as well as store operational side. We are. If I'm not wrong, sometimes I feel we are overhyping the AI. Everything is AI. Can we talk about what are the pain points companies are experiencing in implementing AI-based personalization also? That is also important to see aspect. We should not always see the plus of the technologies. What is some of the problem we are facing it? Emil, would you like to take it?
Yes. Thanks, Right. Yeah. So so right now, like the buzzwords like AI or one of the trendy buzzwords. But think about it, it's not easy to implement. Especially if you're a startup, it could be easier, right? Because most likely your systems are modern, right? But if you're in a company that has been around for a long time, that has legacy systems, like mainframes and all that, and then you're a manufacturer, then it's really hard, right? Because now it comes down to like data, right? Like your data infrastructure needs to be there. Like let's say if your systems have been around since like let's say 60s or 70s, right? They weren't designed to you know to accommodate this modern applications, right? So now your data infrastructure needs to be solid, and then because of course, like we have tools right now, we have technology right now that gather massive amounts of data, right? But you need to be able to analyze and then make sure that the data is clean, as Chit I mentioned in his slides, right? It has to be usable, right? And then now if you are, and then also like maybe data governance, right? You need to be able to tell the consumers that how you're using the data or whatever, if you're collecting them and whatnot. um, Now if you think about it, um, as part of like operations and stuff like that, and then also touching on like the hyper personalization, right? So personalization probably would only apply to like discovery. So most people right now, most consumers right now do their discovery on digital channels, right? Social media and like websites and all that, and then but the catch is, now the consumers decide where they want to buy. They want to buy from Amazon, they want to buy from a mall, they want to buy from wherever they want, right? So it's up to them. Now, take into account that, uh, like this, the, so what I'm saying is like, this is my personal opinion, consumer trends and technologies, they change really, really fast, right? But, uh, uh, consumer psychology hasn't changed for like a million years. So like human psychology is still that way. So in terms of let's say uh, in terms of like let's say one aspect of implementing, like let's say if you're going to be scaling into multiple countries, right? You need to be able to get those data localized, meaning like in different languages, right? So it's not easy. So that's where you actually need to create proof of concepts that you will be able to test and experiment in a controlled scenarios. That way, you will be able to adjust the levers at scale if you figure things out. That's all. Thanks.
I love the answer. Definitely globalization problem, because we face it a lot when it comes to AI perspective. Anyone who would like to take this question? This is a very important point about taking the pain point of the AI when you go for more personalization and globalization. Anyone would like to take it before I move? Sure. Let me move on. Okay, let's go for how this. Let's talk about what it comes to embarking on AI program. How do they get prioritized within the enterprise? Aravind, would you like to take this?
Yeah. I think AI programs, by nature, we look at it as learn fast, implement fast, and benefit fast, right? So that's how we look at AI programs. So the span of the programs are this is not like your traditional ERP that you're going to implement for 12, 18, 24 months. These are short programs and short projects. So we look at it that way. Uh, End of the day, for us, everything has to be business benefit driven. If there is no business benefit, it becomes very difficult to go get the funding. As a CIO, right, funding is very, very important for anything. So business benefits is absolutely important. We look at it at Balfour, a lot of our programs are driven on 4 axes. One of the axes that we drive our AI programs is what we call as follow the dollars, right? Where we spend more, those are candidates where we can use intelligence to drive the cost down. And it could be in customer service, it could be in tech operations, it could be in infrastructure monitoring, it could be in app development. It doesn't matter for us, right? Intelligence for us is not just on the front end, customer and consumer facing. It's also a lot of infrastructure and environment and a lot of AI that goes into that. So follow the dollars is the first axis. The second thing that we do is follow the noise. Noise for us is a lot of uh, dissatisfaction, right? And dissatisfaction comes in many, many areas, right? For example, dissatisfaction could come in customer service, that our customers are complaining that they are not able to get the right answer from the agent. The dissatisfaction comes from customers are not seeing the right products on our website. The dissatisfaction comes from employees who are saying that it takes us about 8 to 10 days to onboard a new employee, right? It could be anywhere. And we look at AI as a way to answer dissatisfaction. Anything that can remove human errors, anything that can remove physical touch points, anything that can stitch together with a workflow and intelligence. So we look at the second axis as follow the noise. The third axis is follow the compliance. And we are an industry where compliance becomes absolutely critical for us. We work with schools and colleges, right? And we deal with the school student data, and we deal with the customer data. So it's not just data privacy, data protection, it's also the information that we need to protect for our customers. So we use AI specifically in the compliance space to really look at what's happening with our environment, with the data itself, running tests to ensure that our systems are protected, running tests to ensure that we are PCI compliant, that we are other compliances that are required as well. And then the fourth axis is follow the value, and this is where business comes back and talks about, hey, what this is a new product that we want to launch, and it has to be with differentiation. So evaluate that also. How can I use AI technology, AI and ML technology to really drive that innovation for our customers? Again, I think the benefit that we have today compared to what it was 10, 15, 20 years back is we have rich data that I can use for my systems to learn, right? Within our organization, we have millions of records that are available that I can run a particular algorithm through the system to really learn from that and really create it. So for us, I think prioritization is benefits driven and really across the four axes.
Sure, but the prioritization should start from customer experience or store operation, or based on your prediction metrics perspective. What is your
No, I think we look at, as I said, prioritization as a CIO. Prioritization starts with, is it a noise that we are trying to eliminate? Right? The noise is dissatisfaction. Am I seeing a lot of dissatisfaction in customer service? Am I seeing a lot of dissatisfaction in the sales side, or am I seeing a lot of dissatisfaction in the employee side? So noise is an important thing. Follow the dollars. Where am I spending more? Right? And then follow the compliance and follow the value. So for us, as a CIO, I look at it as more holistic than just the customer service part of it, or just the e-commerce part of it. Because for me, AI plays an important role in systems of infrastructure. I know we talked about ERP and how ERP is not amenable to AI. We look at AI to be an integral part of our systems of infrastructure. A lot of our infrastructure today are managed by bots. A lot of our infrastructure are managed by hands-free, touch-free, right? And we look at AI to be an integral part of systems of engagement and systems of commerce and systems of insights, right? So for us, we look at AI more holistically across all aspects. And I'm sure some of others may look at it purely from a sales and e-com standpoint. For us, AI is omnipresent in all stacks of our technology.
Got it. Got it. Mir, would you like to take the same question also? It's pretty close to your.
Yeah. So I was, as everyone was talking, I was thinking of some of the things that are going to be very key, right? Especially when we're trying to implement AI within the organizations, right? So, it's number one. It starts with the mindset, right? AI first approach. So think from an organization perspective, right? So if we are going down the route of AI, I mean, I'll be surprised if organization not thinking that way. So the AI first approach, the AI strategy, and pieces in mind. So that is going to be a key foundation to have this built out. Now, in terms of how do we go put specific programs together, right? So what Arvind said, right? It has to be a business value and driven. The what is it that we're trying to solve, whether it's customer service, whether it's a product mix, or whether it is more on supply chain. So there's many avenues and many problem spaces, right? So So number one, identifying the objective, defining the value to it, and then the number two, which is, we talked about fail fast, right? So build fusion teams, right? So build teams, right? Understand that not every organization has expertise to do AI. Not every organization uh, has that talent and the skill set, right? So that's why I'm saying fusion teams, where it's a combination of business, internal technology teams, and partners to really build that fusion team to really drive this forward. And then the third piece is, which I call it is having that data and analytics foundation, right? So if you've got the value, if you've got the objective, you've got the fusion team, making sure you have the data and analytics foundation, right? At the heart of AI is data, making sure there are some, there's data in place and some governance in place as to like how do we go about doing this, right? So when we talk about AI, governance plays a very important role, both from a data analytics strategy and just within AI itself. And the last one is the ecosystem, right? How do we work with the partners across, right? So let's not try to reinvent the wheel, right? So there's partners, there's open source platforms, there's other avenues, there's SaaS-based companies that are out there. So look to see what makes sense for the organization, right? So the whole concept of build versus buy, and paying close attention, right? So I'm an engineer at heart, and this is what I want to do. My first answer is always, let's just go build it. I get excited and I say, let's go build it. However, putting a little bit more rational behind it and understanding from organization perspective where things are. If you're a tech company and if you're a startup company to a company who's been there for 100 years, right? A big elephant. But trying to understand that, right? In some companies, like large companies, they have incubators and small innovation teams. They can actually go to that. So having the ecosystem. So these are sort of the four things, right? So if I overall look at it and want to summarize, like from an AI program perspective, making sure you're solving the right problem, making sure you have the right technology and the foundation, and you have the governance to really measure the impact of the program.
Got it. Thanks, Murk. Let me move on to the next question. How will emerging tech in logistics impacting manpower? Mitchell, would you like to take it?
Yeah, so that's a critical point right now in supply chain that is called the last mile, right? And we know it pretty well right now. I mean, those delivery guys, those couriers for FedEx, UPS, believe it or not, they right now have about 150 stops on the route they need to do daily.
Mm-hmm.
And if something happens just like on one of them, the delay just expanding, and by the end of the day, it kind of gets like super hard for them to follow the schedule. That's why we are looking at so much delays. Now, the natural solution, hey, let's go and hire like more couriers. Let's give them like more trucks on road, and it's going to be simplified. Well, unfortunately, right now it doesn't work this way because it's no surprise that labor market limitations are there. Whoever tries to hire like a lot of couriers this day, they will fail because of that. Now, what other solution could be like in place? Drones, they've been on the market for maybe 15 years already. Are we looking at any successful cases for drones to be implemented? Unfortunately, no. Right, and there's like I know in Mountain View right here there is a testing of those drones that are driving on the road instead of like flying over the head of the residential areas, but still they are very premature and they do not support right now the volumes that could be enough to follow the demand of overall e-commerce. So with the last mile being the limitation, and the main limitation of the last mile is a manpower, any technology or any solution that can try either to increase the number of deliveries within one truck on a daily basis, or to concentrate those deliveries. So imagine you need to ship 150 parcels to, say, only 15 locations, right? That's the best case scenario. You come to one location, you drop it like 10 parcels in there, and you go to another one. So you probably end your shift somewhere in the middle of the day. So you have this extra capacity. And trucks are not limitation. You can put more cargo in those trucks. But time is a real limitation. So right now we are thinking about, like, if you think about technologies, manpower, and how it can influence overall logistics performance, we are thinking about any technology that will enable to concentrate those deliveries into some certain points, and that will enable to ship 5 or 10 parcels to the same local spot, from where online shoppers they can basically pick it up from later on the road, specifically in urban areas, specifically in metropolitan areas like New York, Seattle, and many others. It's not a solution for rural areas, of course, where you can expect like a huge drive between those residential delivery locations. But other than that, that could be one of the technologies that could definitely help to face and to mitigate the risk of this manpower problem and overall labor market situation restrictions.
Perfect. Yeah, drone are definitely one of the important area, but I'm still surprised it is evolving long time, but it is not achieved the goal what it's need to be. I don't know why. Where is the gap? We are also part of drone community, but still the level it has to. We expected the fast is not growing that speed. Hope in the future there's more intelligent will help to lighter technology or AI will to deliver more as well. Let's see. So great. And would anyone like to take this logistic problem using emerging technology?
Yeah, we look at logistics slightly different, right? For us, logistics is, we are an integrated manufacturer, so we manufacture everything that we sell in our commerce. So for us, we're a demand driven organization, and we are hyper personalized on the front end. So you can actually order one single championship ring or one single ring with whatever that you feel is appropriate, right? You can order it with gems or jewels and in all the different things. So for us, I think we look at supply chain to be a slightly different one. It is everything to do with the demand and how demand flows into our supply chain planning, and how planning flows back into our procurement decisions, and then from procurement decisions flowing back into logistics and distribution, and then flowing back into production. So we have, I think to us, there's a lot of things to be done on this particular space, and we've been using digital and AI primarily to drive more transparency between the systems. But I think we still have a long way to catch up in terms of, can it make decisions for us? Can we make intelligent decisions on our procurement behavior? Can we make some intelligent decisions on logistics and distribution, right? How we get our routing done? How can we get our freight contracting done? How can we get our products in using some kind of a vessel sharing? Or how can we reduce the environmental impact? Because we get a lot of our products from Middle East, a lot of our products from Southeast, a lot of our products from China. So we want to make sure that those are things that we can address. And I think to some extent, I think this is the start of an intelligent, digital, intelligent supply chain from a planning, procurement, logistics, distribution, and production. I would see a lot more changes coming in this space, because we are getting squeezed on our supply chain, right? Because the cycle times are becoming longer, which is not acceptable. We ourselves don't want to hold the product for very long on our shelf, because that's the shelf cost that we want to reduce. And at the same time, we want to guarantee a delivery to a customer, on-time delivery, so that when a customer orders something on the website, we know that we're going to deliver in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So it's getting a little tough for us, and I see that this space will continue to evolve in the next couple of years, in a kind of a back-end supply chain planning, procurement, logistics, distribution, and production.
Yeah, I want to add to it, right? So as part of Kraft Heinz, and which is a traditional consumer product good company, same thing what Arvind said. So we're trying to connect all the dots, make sense across, right? So to really become an event-driven organization. And what we're trying to understand is all the way from demand, coming from demand, all the way tied back to procurement, right? And all the pieces in between, right? So the term that I'm sure people from manufacturing here can understand, the control tower, right? So sitting on the top, being able to see, how things are moving across the entire value chain, and being able to understand and connect those dots to make those decisions. So That's one of the focus for us to do. And logistics is an important aspect of it. And we're really trying to take advantage of connecting the rest of the systems to take advantage on the logistics side in terms of if we are heading down towards a city and there's multiple locations that we need to do, how do we really manage that from both from a supply chain perspective to are the goods ready, for us to really take advantage of those routes and those shipping mechanism and actually being able to leverage partner ecosystem as well, right? So whether it's UPS, FedEx, or whether it's our own delivery, how do we take advantage of it, right? So and this is evolving and it's actually very exciting. So uh, to me, I'm new in manufacturing CPG, and I'm very excited about how this whole thing is coming together. And as an leading the engineering and bringing this to each of and working closely with the business, right? So I talked about fusion team. That is, the next new. In order for us to really drive digitization, you really need that teams. So
Mhm.
exciting space, and looking forward to things that we can do down the road.
No, absolutely. Because of especially a major player like Amazon, Google, they invest a lot in technology space, especially cloud availability of technologies, which is helping a lot of startups and existing companies to easily embrace to the new technology. And I'm very excited to see the next decade how it's going to be. I'm expecting next 2 to 3 years is going to be heavy transformation of all the latest and greatest digital twin. It may be on the computer vision based solutions like Amazon Go is booming a lot, like computer vision side cashier-less store model like that. Let's see how it's going to be. And let me try to take the next question. How is the IT organization set up and organized to adapt and implement a project? Arvind, would you like to take it?
Yeah. So for us, AI projects, it has to be agile. So we're very, very clear that any AI project today has to be an agile one, given we have to start it fast, we have to learn fast, and we have to adapt fast, right? So it has to be an agile way of doing things. Uh, we also encourage our teams to democratize the use of AI. Since I said AI for us spans all systems, so it spans systems of engagement, systems of commerce, systems of insights, and systems of infrastructure. So we want to make sure that we have AI projects running in different aspects of our business, right? The third thing, the IT organization is set up and organized to really look at the test results for any of our AI ML projects, making sure that we're able to measure real accuracy, without any bias, right? We want to make sure that because so many of the things when we look at AI and ML, there's this algorithms are built, and over a period of time they may starting to have some bias in the way they predict things. For example, we use AI to look at facial recognition, right? Anywhere between 10 to 12 million photographs that we have on a yearly basis, right? And we've been having digital photographs for last, I don't know, 100 years, right? So we're looking at millions and millions of photographic images, and we run it through our AI ML engine. So we want to make sure that the test results are accurate and it's measured, and
Mhm.
we are calibrating it on an ongoing basis before we really roll it out to a broader organization, right? I think that's how we set it up. As I said, it's all agile projects, quick, learn fast, adapt fast, and then move on before it becomes broader.
Emil, would you like to take the question as well?
Yes, yes. Yeah. So as far as like yeah, okay. So
Do you
the
want
teams need to be
to recap the question, Emil? Do you want to recap the question?
yes, please.
How is the IT organization set up and organized to adapt and implement AI projects?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, there should be a team inside a company, right? Especially if like it's a traditional, company that has been around for a long time, especially manufacturing. There should be like a small team that will be agile enough, as Aravind said, to be able to create proof of concepts. Right? Let's say, there's of course you don't want that being said, you don't want to impede any of like the core, right? The core business. You don't want to interrupt that, right? So that means your proof of concepts need to be measurable, right? Of course, you have to define what you are looking for, and then you have to be able to like measure everything, and then and then the bottom line is, as Arvin said, like uh, look at the results, and then and figure out the, if it's like, if you will you be able to scale, two, what's the return on investment, right? Going more towards like solving the business problem.
Good. Good. Sure. Thanks. Thanks. And let's go to the next question. How do we believe AI will evolve to create operational efficiency? Mark, would you like to take it?
Sure. I think for me, look, as I mentioned previously, I look after merchandising, supply, and customer service. If I think just about my merchandising team right now, I have I should know this number, right? I have 50, 55, 56 merchandisers that are curating the site on a daily basis. We in a fashion world, we are much like everybody else on this call, but we're already planned into holiday this year, and we're thinking about winter already. So we're looking at 9 to 12 months ahead in terms of what we want on the site and when. And I think as we evolve and as we grow, and this relates to one of the points that I mentioned earlier with regards to the growth that we saw in 2020 with the online boom, if you want, during the pandemic. And we saw an increase in sellers wanting to come to the site and sell. And of course, that means that there's more products to sell. And we still want to maintain a level of curation. So as we try and think about scaling, increased headcount is not the answer. It's definitely not a scalable solution, particularly as we think about expanding, across geographical boundaries as well. And so, really leaning into how does technology and how does AI help us curate the site better? How does it predict what we want when we want it? Leaning that back up to the marketplace utopia. And so really, it's very much about how can I encourage technology to provide a more scalable solution for my teams, but equally make it an easier role, if you want, for those teams, and that I can give them greater efficiency, and then allows me to leverage their knowledge and experience more, specifically in a curation, obviously talking from a merchandising standpoint, rather than battling against some of the operational aspects of that role. And so I think for me, it's very much about how do I use technology to predict not just what my customers are going to want when they arrive on the site, but how do I ensure that I'm in a position to provide that product when they come to the site. And of course, the utopia right now, or what we're actually working on is, customers don't know that they want it until they arrive, and then they realize they do, because that's our job to do that. But equally, we need to make sure that we are thinking that far ahead in terms of, inventory numbers, trends, what that means in terms of demographic. We saw our demographic change over the last couple of years, and we're very much typically aimed at the southern states. In terms of our demographic, that actually changed. Yes, that's still a strong demographic or geographical location for us, but we saw a lot more customers come in from West Coast, East Coast, and the tri-states in particular, and they have different trends, different requirements, different seasons. The fact that right now we need to be targeting swimwear for our folks in Florida and Southern California, and still need to be providing winter wear for our folks in the north of the country. So there's all of that balance in terms of what does that mean in terms of the inventory, how we battle that against with supply chain challenges that we see, that we have seen, and we are going to continue to see. How do we balance that with increased supply chain costs which inevitably we're going to see as fuel increases right now due to some, due to the geopolitical situation that's going on. So all of those things lead into how can I ensure that technology is helping me create a more scalable, cost-efficient solution that is, of course, forefront for me is how do I drive shareholder value? And from that standpoint, I really want to understand how technology can help ensure that we are set up for success internally, which in turn means that we are providing that great user experience once those users arrive on the site.
Good. Thanks. Who would like to take this same question? Mitchell, would you like to take this question as well? Because more operational side.
Not exactly. It's not exactly my.
Let me recap the question again. How do we believe AI will evolve to create operational efficiency?
I can take it. Should I? Yeah. So so to me, I see AI really as a technology to augment human capabilities, right? Extending um, the manpower that you have in operations, and then utilize it to. So let's say an example would be you can use AI to scan the system and look for to scan the system and look for where redundancy happens, or like anything that wouldn't scale. You need to be, let's say, if you will be able to figure out in the system that you will be able to cut out and you know cut out and then maybe integrate that into uh, another business process and join them together, something like that, and that will allow you to be able to scale. So scale isn't like one-to-one growth, right? You're gonna be you're gonna be talking about like exponential, right? Because like at the end of the day, like we like in operations is really important, right? So like most business, like on the business side, right, you want to be able to sell to customers. On the marketing side, you would want to be able to target the right demographic and all that. On the operational side, right, you would want to be able to support that right, especially fulfillment, right? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about being like are the businesses and the brands to be more customer centric, right? And
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, you have to take care of your customers. So like let's say if you will be able to provide um, efficiency, right? And sometimes um, you know uh, directly you wouldn't be able to immediately like maybe you have to take less profit because you're going to be providing, like let's say, 2-day shipping, right? But then what happens is you gain like repeat customers. That's more valuable than one time, right? And that they never come back. So that's how I see it in like operations.
Thanks, Emil. How about Mitchell? I think I missed in the internet connectivity. Mitchell, what is your point of view on this one question?
Yeah, I would say it's not specifically my domain. What I would think of the use case for AI specifically in logistics that we are utilizing by ourselves is a prediction of delivery time, right?
Mhm.
So there's like an expectation of some certain delivery time to some certain areas, but there's also the actual delivery time based on the current situation, based on the delays and maybe some obstacles that carriers are facing right now inside their network. So you can expect like, hey, if the shipping is done to California, then guess what? It's going to be like several extra days because of what we've seen before. And that's something you can definitely automate and speed up with AI. The advanced models, right, could also be using the weather data, right? And for major carriers, they do use it, I believe, a lot. Like any other events that are happening, I think that's a list of them that are basically added to a model. The model is taught, and then you can like more accurately forecast the delivery time to some certain neighborhoods from pretty much any part of the country. And that's something that really only AI can do very well. So that would be one of the implications I would think about.
Got it, Michelle.
I can add some thoughts here on this. So this is
Yeah,
it's the number one thing we have to understand, right? At the end of the day, what AI provides and the techniques within AI can help solve the operational aspect of it, right? So it's how we use that model on a data set, right? What is it we're trying to do, right? So I look at it from a manufacturing perspective, right? So how I can use AI to really help me with the predictive maintenance, right? Just like as I'm running the machines, I'm running the lines to produce the goods. How can I use AI to drive that predictive maintenance, right? Looking at some of this sensor data, looking at some aspects of the output, like Mitchell said, right? So I'm going to look at energy utilization. I'm going to look at some other, outputs and KPIs to really measure, right? So you look at from a predictive perspective, and you look at more the other use case, which is very much talked about in the market, is anomaly detection or threat detection, right? So both, you can use anomaly detection on the operation side while you're running, and all the way from running your systems to running your machineries to running anything that can detect, right? There's a normal operations, right? Machines turns on 8 o'clock in the morning, shuts up 5. And in general, there's a peaks and valleys, and it learns and it understands. When it sees too many shutdown, too many things, spikes, peaks and valleys, then it can detect. And same thing, and you put that same model on top of a data on a systems that you're looking at to understand. A normal day, you have 100 logins into a system and you see 500. In a normal day, I have 500 visits to my website. Now I see 10,000, right? So these are things that typically qualifies as anomaly detection, right? So you can do root cause analysis. The other thing that Mitchell talked about was event correlation and noise kind of things, right? So event correlation, this is something that, back in the days before really, we were doing this, how do we connect the dots, understands and all that, right? So I come from an airline background. When we have a disruption in the schedule, right, if the flight delays because of the weather, I automatically understand what would that mean from a gate perspective, from passenger perspective, from crew perspective, and be able to correlate that and do something else, right, to inform the system, right? And then in all of this, and then one of the other scenarios that I'm seeing is this whole on the customer service side, right? Intelligent, sort of escalation and all of that, right? So there's tools and then platforms out there on technology sides, PagerDuty being one, which I'm close to work to, the intelligence, from escalation and escalation management, right? This becomes all of this operational becomes key to running a successful digital transformation platform, right? A digital ecosystem. You need to be able to have this so that we can really provide, the total experience from a customer perspective.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that's an important point because sensor data, other data, we have to predictive maintenance is very important area in the operation. Yeah, I agree. But, let's take to the next question. How does AI help improve shopping experience in online retail? Mir, would you like to take the same back?
Oh man. So I think we kind of touched upon that from a hyper personalization perspective as to like, well, how this affects. And this morning I was talking to somebody from my team. They're trying to solve a similar problem. Uh, Once you get an email, let's say you get an email from Nike. Nike says the new shoes has come out. And ideally, me as a customer, what I want is when I click on that email, I want to be able to take into a site that would actually show me the sneakers that was sent, and I was really interested in, because at some point I configured Nike's profile to say I'm interested in basketball shoes for this particular celebrity, and this is what I want. And when I get that email, I want. But unfortunately, the experience today is when I click on it, I land on a page that tells me to log in, and land on a page tells me to go find that shoes. It doesn't take me to the shoes that I started off with. So that's where organizations have can't remember if a company actually does that successfully, but that's the kind of experience that people and customers are looking for today. Right. So being able to understand being able to personalize the content, the messaging, being able to personalize the habits and understand it, right? Now to a point we know the shopping habits of people, right? And Mark said this like this hyper personalization could become a little creepy also. And we see that on Facebook and all that. Sometimes you're talking and I was like, how did they know that I was thinking and talking about it? So it's really becoming creepy also. So there has to be an ethical aspect to it and a balance to it as well. It's like, gosh, it's like, if you have iPhone, 100% it's learning. And this whole cross, like we get excited about iPhone, how iPhone can seamlessly switch from a mobile to tablet to this, and it can take you a Chrome experience. We thought it's the greatest thing, but guess what? It's tracking you everywhere you are, right? So it
I
becomes
think
personalized.
the topic is going towards exactly where a problem. Okay.
Right. So,
Okay.
so it's a boundary that we really, as an organization, we have to think, and as a customer, I mean, I still know people who really have no profile on the internet, right? To some degree, it's like everything and everybody knows it. So, balance, personalization is still needed at the end of the day, but right. So, one of the trending topic is AI and ethics. It's like how well and where to use and who's crossing what the boundaries. As the leaders in organization, we need to stand for it, and we need to make sure it's like when we're sort of crossing that line and really control that. So I still believe personalization is important. This is how you're going to win the customers. This is how you're going to connect and create that lifelong, membership. However, got to balance it.
Yeah, so how do you take the same question, Arvind? I think you talked about it. Definitely, I see that finally Mirror accepted, yes, there is a problem also on the AI, which Emil was talking about before. What do you feel in your view,
Yeah.
Arvind? Do you agree
Yeah.
with that or no? It is really needed.
Yeah, I think we've been having this debate in our senior leadership team, right? How much, because the question of AI and ML is learning the customer and learning the customer's pattern, learning the customer's buying behavior. And the first thing that comes to our mind is we want to cross sell and upsell, right? I think there is a fine balance between there's a reason why the customer is coming to us to buy something. So we want to reduce the path to purchase. So if you really take the path to purchase, first we want the customer to buy something. Then we will cross sell and upsell. Because today's world, we are seeing more cross sell, upsell everywhere. You buy this and 20 other customers bought this, and then you bundle this and 50 other things happen. People don't buy, they keep clicking and going, and we see a lot of bounce happening in the system, rather than actually the customer coming there because they wanted to buy that one particular thing first. So we always debate this in our leadership team as to how much we want to cross sell and upsell, knowing the customer's buying behavior and the buying pattern and what other customers bought versus exactly what this customer wants to buy. So for us, the Uber personalization is we want you to first buy this one product that you are interested in and reduce the path to purchase with 3 clicks so that you can buy it. And then we will look at what we can do from a cross sell, upsell, what others bought, what others did not buy, similar customers buying similar products and bundling things. Those are all value adds for us. So the average order value for us is very important, which is the first thing that the customer wanted to buy. So it's a fine balance, and I'm sure most retailers are facing this challenge because we as consumers are fat finger. We like to click things and keep going to another one. When I go to certain e-commerce sites, I'm just clicking randomly different things. Not
I
really.
agree with you, Arvind. I'm not saying no, but keep that in mind. So I'm a customer. You are taking my data, upsell, downsell, all I'm good. But for business perspective, but as a customer perspective, still without my authorization, the data is flowing around different area, which feel little bit unethical for privacy perspective, right? So still it has to be considerable because if there is any data leakage happen in middle of someone, it is my data is leaking. If you see security aspects.
No, I think no. We as an organization, we are compliant with opt-in and opt-out clauses. So we don't randomly collect data for the sake of collecting the data. Customers do have an option to opt out, and those are very, very clear in our interaction and transaction, and customers opt in. So I think there is also the customer's responsibility to really opt out if they really want that to be anonymous. And once they opt out, we don't target them, we don't track them, we don't want to know what they are doing and what they are buying. So I think there is it's a double-edged sword, right? Organizations want
Yeah, because the AI governance is still not well defined for most of the organization security aspect, right? Still, still is going through. You are securing the data, but AI trained model is still your data is there, right? So you have to understand that piece as well. That you cannot quickly eliminate it. But anyway, I have to a little bit take Nitin's to cover some question and answer as well. Everyone, thanks for the answer, Arvind. You are covering well. You covered well, Mir as well. Nitin, why can't you quickly take the Q&A session as well? We are running out of time.
Yeah, Chitra has just to leave the thing. So I'll quickly take it over. I'll be for you with the next 15 minutes. We have some 12, 13 minutes, and there are a couple of questions which I can see in the Q&A section. So let me ask the question. I'll read out, and one of you can obviously jump on it. Will technology eventually manage to blur the line between reality and virtual? We saw the advent of AR experiences at physical locations. Can VR be leveraged to bring the store to the customer's home? The only difference being they are a virtual visitor. So, Michelle?
Yeah, I think I can take this one because that's something that is circulating around our company as ideas for quite a while, right? So what is happening right now in retail space? Sales keep moving from brick and mortar sales to e-commerce space. Now the big question is, and I recently did this questionnaire in my LinkedIn, asking like, hey, do you think like the next step would be moving to VR space? So we have the extension of this trend. Now most people said no, believe it or not. So most people say like, hey, VR will never be something even like e-commerce is today, like the online e-commerce, browser e-commerce or mobile or app. Whereas I believe if you ask pretty much the same people like 15 years ago about if e-commerce will be something that will be matching brick and mortar sales, I believe many of them would, no disrespect, but many of them would also say, no, it won't. But that's already happening, right? And that's all about the innovation and how innovations are generally accepted in the market. So for VR, personally, I do believe that there will be a future of online sales and in VR. And there's definitely going to be like this new VR experience of how we will buy there. It's just, we didn't seem to find this perfect use case yet. We didn't seem yet to find something that is like handy enough, that is more easy to use comparing to like a browser going to a Shopify online store, right? There has to be some kind of advantage to do it in VR instead of doing it in a browser. But at once this advantage will be found, there's definitely will be a huge move of sales from e-commerce and from brick and mortar now down to VR. And maybe VR sales will be able to replace some share of brick and mortar sales if the technology will enable to touch, in a sense, to touch and take a deeper look into these products. The biggest obstacle right now, as far as I know, is how you digitize, if you will, this item you want to sell, right? Say, take a look at this cup and imagine I want to sell it online. Now I need to make an image of this cup and put it into virtual space. And this technology should be pretty much available everywhere. As far as I know, cell phone producers, they are more and more equipping their devices with LiDARs that will help to create a 3D copy of this nice thing and put it in VR. And at that point, we will be able to start selling those items as active as we are doing it right now on e-commerce space. Actually, big question for us and why we are investigating that is like, should we go as a delivery service as a delivery company into this space right now, so that not only you can buy this cup from in VR, but you can actually also deliver it to your home address. So how to connect those two virtual world with the real world in a sense of the flow of the products. So that's something from my side.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, Emil, please add on to that.
Yeah, so I can add in. I want to add too. Like these technologies, like these companies already exist, right? So, due to the pandemic, right? So, like there are companies that have like minimum viable products already, and nobody really cared to listen to them. You know, pre-pandemic, and then pandemic hit. They're fully booked. You won't be able to get in, right? So it's exists. Like for example, there's like technology there that you would be able to let's say if you have let's say you have a retail store, you can literally create a virtual a VR store that's really looks like your physical store, and then you will be able to, let's say, even with a headset or maybe using just your computer as 2D, you'll be able to look through and then click on things and then look closer, right? And then you would be able to even buy. So there's like technology right now. They're not that, I mean, it's still early, right? But you know, the, but because there's already a need to have this kind of technology, especially with the rise of like NFTs, in fashion. So this is basically where everything is going. It's gonna be a mix of so it's like consumers will be able to depending on which generation they belong to, they will be able to buy from like your cell phone website, VR, with a VR headset, all these things, it exists, even if you buy like a Quest headset, you'll be able to go to like a virtual space and then meet with other people. But of course, when you look, they're like avatars, right? So there's a lot of things that exist right now that are in development, right? So all of these are running on pilots. So yeah.
Thank you, Emil. So I'll also share some experience which I had seen in the last few events, as I was there in a lot of demo which happened during the last few years. Digit 7 means they have also designed one virtual store in which a mobile is there, and they have created a 3D image of that, and which you can rotate it at all angles. You can open it, which you cannot do it in the physical world. When you go to a store, you cannot open the phone and see inside everything what is there. But in a virtual world, you can do that, and that's the best part. You can go to every minute corners of the phone. I've seen that phone video which is there in a virtual world. That is amazing. Means you can open all the sites. You can feel that it is in front of you. You feel that you are in the store, and that is the beauty of that. So I think VR can change a lot of things. Yeah, I know.
And also, I just want to add one final thought too, like because Mitchell mentioned that, like, how do you actually get your physical product into the virtual space, right? So in fashion, you have to send your products. So that means, if you have like, I don't know, maybe 2,000 styles, you need to be able to send it to them so that they can scan. Well, how they do it with maybe AI, with cameras and AI, whatever, or they actually enter it. It depends on which company you talk to, but definitely there is a way. And then also, if you think about it as a company, will it fit? You have to also find out, return on investment, right? Is it like, would you be able to get it and then and be able to um, and then what to and also importantly, will you have internal resources in your team that will be able to understand and then work on that
Yeah.
technology, right? So that's like.
I think that is the future, and a lot of people nowadays. And pandemic has shows the way. Means how you have to do that, sitting at home. There's no point stopping the business, or point stopping the buying part. You have to buy. You have to be there in the market. You have to see the new things which is coming up. So I think this is a great opportunity in the near future as well. So there's another question. What are the possible latest ways to advance the current chatbot using AI? Uh, Anybody of you want to take that? So Samrat Sen Gupta has asked this question. What are the possible latest ways to advance the current chatbot system using AI? So how many of you are using chatbot in your website? I think mostly all. In the retail, in the online space, I think
Yes, I mean
chatbot support is there.
we do use chatbots right now. Honestly, it's not the most fantastic experience from a customer service standpoint. I think that there's a lot of development that needs to go into that. I see AI becoming more, I guess, more prevalent and advanced chatbot in, the chat fully understanding who they're speaking to, pulling that data in, understanding more about that customer at the time that they are, that chatbot is speaking to them. So how do we personalize that in a far different way? But I do think that we as an organization have to, not as an organization, we as an industry, if you want, we still reliant on technologies that are going to emerge. We're continuing to test into the chatbot. Actually, our engagement with chat is not as high as we thought it would be when we first introduced it. What it does allow, of course, is for us to provide a 24/7 customer service experience, but that may become more prevalent as we go overseas and outside of the US. But actually, the biggest surprise for me was the lack of interaction with the chatbot once we introduced it. And I think that that's more I think that's twofold. Yes, technology needs to catch up because consumers that have used chatbot, and we've all used chatbots, and we've all got frustrated with them because we've never really gotten the answer that we wanted. And so we still want to speak to a human, or we still want to have that interaction with a human being. So I think that the expectation, customer expectation, is not being managed specifically, and so technology needs to catch up with that. And so it's a bit of a chicken and egg right now. Until the technology catches up, it's not going to be a great experience, but folks need to start using chatbot more for technology to help catch up. So it's very much a chicken and egg. But yeah, the biggest surprise for me actually is the lack of interaction that we actually have. Personally, from my standpoint within Jane, literally less than 0.5% of our inbound contact into our customer support team is via chat.
I think we look at it. We look at advancements in chatbot in two ways. One, we are looking at this as an omni-channel experience. So you can start an interaction with our customer service on a phone call, get onto a chat, or you can connect. So we call it as call, chat, and connect. So everything is connected together so that as a customer service agent, you particularly know as a customer that you try to talk to the same issue that you had. You started on a phone call, you ended up on an email connect, or you ended up on a chat. So I think that's one advancement that we are seeing, so that it is a very unified experience for the customer agent as well as the customer. The second thing that we are looking at is a more natural language. I think today the customer service is no more standard questions, right? So for us, it could be as simple as, cap and gown. And then we know that, hey, you're looking for graduation for cap and gown, and you are from state of Virginia, and we know that your graduation is going to happen on May 22nd. That means you need a cap and gown ordered in the next 1 week. So we're trying to make a little more natural language processing so that the customers don't have to talk a lot or say a lot, and we kind of understand what they're coming from. Those, I think, would be some advancements in the chat bot. And we look at more chat as not a standalone channel. We look at it more as an integrated channel within customer service.
So I want to add a few things here. So number one, if you remember back from early 2000s, where voice activation and CRM, telephony and was coming. So it took a while for it to really catch up and become smart. So same way I see chatbots and things getting, the chatbot is going to get smarter only if it's the focus is there to improve that, right? So for example, if you are a product company, chatbot is going to be able to answer a lot of it if it has that knowledge base to build off of it. Like how's Siri getting Siri or um, what's the Microsoft one? Um, they are getting richer because of the data and things that are being put into it. So same way, an organization, there needs to be an effort to improve that scripts. At the end of the day, they're relying on interaction and learning from some of the interaction they're having online and real time. The second is the data that has been fed into it. As the data gets richer, they get a little smarter. And we, as a personal user of chatbots, time to time, I just click on it, click done, because I can tell my second question or third, it won't be able to answer. So increase that richness by providing a full catalog of the products or services you offer to make sure it's fully rich and has that FAQ kind of built in. And then two, connecting data and just improving the model. And the thing Urban talked about is like making sure it's omnichannel, it's connected fully so that I'm not starting my journey as a customer when I land from phone to service to this and all of a sudden I was like, do you want me to repeat this again? That whole connection needs to be there as well. Technology wise, I mean, I think the platform is going to get better and better, but it just the execution and implementation of it is where I start to see challenges.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Mir. Thank you for giving your thought process. And I think we are up with the time now. So thanks a lot to all the panel members, Arvind, Mir, Mark, Emil, and Michelle, Chitraya as well, to moderate the panel discussion. I think it was a great discussion, and a lot of thought process came into this. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care, and we'll connect soon. Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. Bye. Take care. So we'll move on to our last panel discussion for the day, which is transformation and retail innovation with emerging technologies. So we have Lisa. Lisa is principal and founder, Retail Strategy Group. Excited to see her moderating this panel discussion. Along with her, we have Chris. Chris is there. Chris, Mike, Philip, you all can come on the video mode and we'll take this discussion forward. Yeah, I can see Mike now. Chris is there. Oh, great. We have all the panel members, all the great leaders. I know you must be eagerly waiting for your turn. So over to you, Lisa. I will not do much talking. I want you to take the discussion forward. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Nitin. Super excited to be here to talk about transformation and retail innovation with emerging technologies. A little bit about me. I am the principal and founder of Retail Strategy Group and the Merchant Life Media channel. I will be your moderator today. I've spent over 2 decades in merchandising, planning, and product creation from Ralph Lauren, Club Monaco, many department stores, and I now help brands and retailers with their go-to-market strategies. I'm also a Rethink Retail Global retail influencer and a regular contributor to Retail Wire, Bloomberg, Forbes, Footwear News, The Sourcing Journal, and The Wall Street Journal. And I have a huge investment in driving technology forward in getting closer to the customer. Today on our panel, we have Chris Vaughn, CEO and founder at Saucy, changing the way the world drinks. We have Mike Fogarty, founder and CEO of Choice, modernizing the world of grocery, and Philip Robb, CEO of Model Number, disrupting the furniture industry through innovation and sustainability. First question for the group. Let's talk about, there has been a lot of discussion around AI and how it's the competitive differentiator to help retailers strengthen their brand. Chris, how are you using AI as your competitive differentiator?
Well, I think in the last discussion, there was a little bit of talk around chatbots and AI helping with customer support and helping customers get to the answers that they need quickly. I think, different than some of the people in the previous panel, we've actually seen a lot of success with this. a lot of our transactions around different cities around the country, in many ways, a customer is looking for a very simple answer to something that may happen during an ordering process or something that may happen of a product that they're trying to find, and utilizing some of that technology to deliver them actionable answers faster than we could through any sort of customer support channel has proven to be really beneficial, both in terms of user conversion and in terms of their satisfaction scores after an order's taken place. It's obviously also helped us reduce what would otherwise be a meaningfully scaling customer support cost. We always try and get people to support as quickly as we can when they need to, but if it's a simple answer that you can help somebody find, a quick solution for, we've seen huge success using AI for that. We've obviously utilized it a lot in product recommendations as well. So how do we look at combinations or series of searches, browsing history, purchasing, shopping data, similar types of consumer and user profiles to surface products that people may love and enjoy. Again, I think, from the previous panel, something that was it is very true is you don't want to get too prescriptive in your recommendations. You can obviously sort of almost pigeonhole somebody too much into a particular type of profile. And if you want to be a platform that also is known for curation, you can't get too specific, I think, in every recommendation that they have. But we've similarly seen our ability to lift cart sizes, repeat purchase rates, and the average AOV of any given order by utilizing some of those techniques to really customize add-ons or combinations or recommendations for people.
How about you, Mike, from a grocery perspective and a food perspective? How are you using AI or emerging technologies to help strengthen your branding, it closer to your customer?
So we were founded from the ground up on this omni-channel experience, and one of the channels we just launched is a frictionless checkout platform called Choice Now. Leverages cameras, sensors, and AI to basically automate the checkout experience. And so that's one area we're focusing on, is that kind of customer-facing experience, but more holistically, we're looking at AI across production planning for our commissary, order fulfillment. So just what we should order, when, and what products and when, and taking into account a lot of different factors like lead times, like even things like weather and school schedules. You can start to get more honed in on inventory with some AI applications. Last mile logistics, we're looking at robotic delivery that leverages AI. So really across, and then chatbots and things like that. Customer service, we haven't implemented yet into our e-com platform, but we will be to really help streamline the customer service process. So for us, it's pretty holistic across the business, and
okay.
I think it'll allow us to get closer to the customer in a number of ways. Smaller format, fully autonomous markets that are in your neighborhood potentially, or in your hospital and local university. I mean, so we're kind of looking at this holistically across where you live, work, and play, and really thinking how we reinvent the convenience model, right? And for us, delivery is a component for sure, but if we can get the customer to come into the store in an efficient, four-wall, convenient model, that's in a low-margin business, that's going to be our most profitable dollar, right? Is the in-store purchase. So we just want to make the four walls super efficient, super personalized, and streamlined through technology. So
awesome. I mean, there's a lot of parallels, I think, with what you're saying and what we do from an apparel footwear perspective, using AI and planning and getting closer to the customer, automation, digitization, etc. Philip, I have lots of questions for you, and I'm sure I'll have to take you aside at some point. But tell us a little bit about the technologies that you're using. I know that 3D printing is something that you're really pushing across your product creation. But what other technologies, or if you can tell us a little bit about 3D printing, how are you using technology to strengthen your brand?
Yeah, for sure. We're right now in the furniture space, and it's not, I think, as commoditized as the grocery and some of the beverage industry, because when you purchase furniture, you're very often it's not something that you're doing on a daily or weekly basis, and so right now we're in more of the luxury as well as kind of the commercial side of things. But we're finding that, one, people want to be able to customize things to a particular space, and two, they want things that are fast to market. And so what we're doing, and what you can do through 3D technology and digital fabrication, is that when somebody orders something, it's not like we have to hold inventory, right? Because traditionally manufacturing is about creating a mold, and you produce tens of thousands of a particular unit. For us, it's about, hey, I want something, an order comes in, and let's say an order comes in for a piece of outdoor furniture. We can print that order, and then right on the back, on the heels of that, I could print something completely different on another order that comes in. And I think through 3D technology, that allows us to do that. And so you're seeing now, not just furniture. I was just in Austin, Texas, earlier this week. Icon Build is 3D printing homes through 3D printing concrete. You're seeing this actually in the manufacturing of other things, from airplane parts to parts for ships and for other large industrial types of things. So we're starting to now bring this into a more, I would say, mainstream kind of commercial type of products. And so that also allows us to be highly sustainable, because we can, one, we're using plant resin and agricultural waste to print the products. And at the same time, we also don't have to carry inventory, which is really one of the biggest problems that you're seeing today with reverse logistics and companies and in e-commerce in general are getting crushed by the cost of shipping and returns. And so we're trying to minimize that. And I'm also kind of seeing that as well as, like, not just in what I'm doing today at Model Number, but I'm advising and working with a lot of companies who are looking at technology to help reduce that friction and ensure that they can kind of minimize the amount of minimize their cost, because at the ultimately that's what's going to be the killer, and has been for a lot of direct to consumer brands.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue to another question around returns, because it is such a hot topic. Chris, I'll go back to you. How has technology helped you provide better delivery service, or even a reverse logistics experience? How has technology helped your brand?
Well, I mean, delivery is a tough space, whether you're a small company or a big multinational retailer. At the end of the day, it's about very, very fine-tuned labor management and efficiency with people's routes and time. And if you can't do those things well, then you're never going to do delivery well at scale. There's a lot of tools out there that I think help, whether it's on route planning or even batching or grouping of orders. But I think we've had to develop a lot of tools over the years, really around how do you maximize somebody's efficiency inside of small windows of time, and how do you activate and deactivate labor also in small windows of time. So if you think of a traditional retailer or platform, usually labor planning is done pretty well in advance. Like you book schedules for the month in advance, or at minimum weeks in advance. But in delivery, in many ways, particularly in last mile delivery, you're trying to maximize people's time inside of 30-minute windows. So how do you activate communities of people or deactivate communities of people based on volume or surges? And so there's a lot of predictive analysis that goes into I think volume and planning. There's also things that you can't predict, surges that can come out of nowhere, but you monitor historically all the basics around like holidays or events or sporting events or whatever, huge spikes around TV shows being released or whatever it may be. You have all this knowledge on how you plan for that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't think, today in last mile, it would be very challenging for somebody to do delivery at scale if you weren't meaningfully utilizing technology to assist in that planning, or how do you activate and deactivate labor. It's not going to be done in like scheduling software. It's not going to be done just on like payroll systems, unless you're 100% scheduled service. That's totally different, right? But I mean, if you think of the cost of delivery, you get something shipped to you in 2 to 3 weeks. Why is that way cheaper than getting it tomorrow, which is cheaper than getting it today, which is cheaper than getting it in the next hour? Because it gets incrementally harder to obviously manage labor the tighter that window gets. So much of what you see happening, whether it's Amazon getting faster and faster or these instant delivery services, just simply would not be possible without some of the technology that's out there today.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Mike? I know that you just recently launched frictionless checkout, and I know that you are using technology in a way that a lot of grocery is not. How are you managing delivery and returns and using technology to your advantage?
Yeah, of course. So we have a kind of bifurcated delivery strategy with native delivery using electric vehicles and e-bikes, as well as third-party delivery services, Uber Eats, Postmates, or not Postmates anymore, but Grubhub, etc., for mostly on the prepared food side. And so for us, again, it's an omni-channel experience, right? So delivery is one channel that we're leveraging technology. We have the kind of BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store. Now this frictionless checkout, for us, the idea of trying to move as many of our customers to the native platform is our goal. It's more cost effective. We obviously can use that data to better merchandise, to better promote, to better personalize offers. And then in general, we're able to offer the wider selection of products, basically the whole store, versus like an Uber Eats and some of these other third parties that are designed for a smaller menu, smaller number of SKUs. So for us, we're leveraging this tech stack we've built to really provide the customers the choice of how they want to interact with choice and how they want to shop, really. So I think we, as in the grocery space, have somewhat of an advantage because we've built this from the ground up. We're small, we're nimble, whereas the large retailers are. It's like moving the Titanic, right? That they have legacy systems, legacy processes, big boxes, large number of SKUs, not convenient, right? So that's really the founding of the company, was to disrupt that model, because our customers are shopping 3-4 times a week, not once on Sunday. They're shopping for prepared foods and grocery. So it's just a different world than the 100,000 square foot warehouse that is our grocery store was built on. That's really leveraging technology across any of the channels, but obviously delivery being one of them.
How about you, Philip? I'm curious about the model that you're using for model number around delivery and even returns from a made-to-order perspective. Is that something that you entertain? Is there, a white glove or customer service aspect to what you guys are doing today? Philip, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, we're utilizing third-party services just because of the size of which we are to deliver. Ultimately, our long-term goal is to essentially we believe that manufacturing needs to become more localized and it needs to be domestic. So that doesn't mean, hey, made in USA. It's domestic to wherever you are, and trying to use as many domestic species in the furniture that we're producing. Because ultimately we think that you can, rather than taking large manufacturing facilities, and since we don't have, we don't hold inventory, we don't have to have DCs and a couple centralized DCs. So the idea being that long term we want to grow and have a series of microfactories, essentially within about 100 to 150 miles of 85-90% of the end user, right? So if I live in San Francisco, so if an order comes through and I place an order today, then that should get fulfilled from our Oakland microfactory, right? Ultimately, if you live somewhere else in the country, that order goes directly to that microfactory closest to where you're located, so that it gets shipped from there. So you're reducing, the time that it takes. So it may take us about 3 to 5 weeks to produce that item. Well, it should only take you about a day or two of shipping rather than having to ship it across the country. Similarly, if you do need to return that, it can reduces back where that item has to go. We do find that because a lot of our items are customized and highly customizable, that individuals aren't, the rate of returns are very low.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things where we think that the process and the technology of 3D printing and digital fabrication and the way that we're doing it can change completely the model. We see that, and I've talked to a lot of folks in the apparel industry too, which I think you're going to start to even see that in other industries, localized manufacturing will become, I think, how we do things. Because originally the problem with cost on labor was that you had to have so many individuals doing something. Yeah. But now if you can actually reduce that, you can have higher paying wages, and you can still, like I said, you can spread that out across different geographies. And so we think that that's really where at least I can speak for, I think, when the furniture, and then I'm even starting to kind of see this, like I said, happen in apparel and in other industries.
Absolutely.
It will be fascinating.
Yeah, and I think that when we do run into each other, I think that will be some deep conversations around that space, because just around sampling alone and product testing in apparel and footwear and accessories, I've worked with some brands that I will not name, but they're doing some phenomenal things around changing the way we create product, getting faster to market, and also localizing some of that testing of product, and of course, really reducing the overdevelopment, so reducing that waste and being more sustainable. So I do love that you made that comparison.
Yeah, we've already been approached by other furniture companies to saying, like, look, can you model out or 3D print and some samples for us, locally here, and doing all of this. So I think you're going to start to even see some other cross-pollination within industries of companies working together that maybe one time were seen as kind of, competitors or foes, and now, saying, like, how do you work together to solve, I think, a lot of these kind of common problems. Even you mentioned footwear. I mean, you saw it kind of happen, like with Allbirds when Amazon was kind of trying to knock off, some of their stuff, and they're like, here, we'll share with you what we're doing in the technology, because we ultimately have a greater purpose and good as a B Corp and what we're trying to accomplish. And if you want this, we still think we're going to create a better product than you, but we'll share with you kind of like, how this kind of works, because we ultimately believe in something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've seen a lot of that in the CPG space. I'm based in Canada, and we have something called LCBO. Chris, I'm sure you've heard of it. And that they have just launched a 3D printed wine bottle, which I thought was super interesting, that is biodegradable and good for the environment. So I love to hear that. I'd love to talk a little bit about capturing customer data and how that's feeding into the decisions that you're making today around product and promotion and marketing. Chris, can I give you this question? How are you capturing customer data, and how are you using customer data to drive decision making?
Sure. Well, it's kind of interesting, right? I think that, so we do this in two different industries. In alcohol, it's an industry where I think very little is known about the customer at retail. So we do a lot of work with the big alcohol brands on helping them better understand who their customers are at brick and mortar retail. On-premise alcohol, stadiums, bars, restaurants, hospitality, hotels share a decent amount of information with, the big players. But in brick and mortar, Costco historically has been the largest seller of alcohol in the country. They control less than 2.5% of sales. It's a heavily fragmented mom and pop driven business. And so understanding who those customers are and what type of trends are quickly emerging in the alcohol sector, I think is really interesting. Yeah. And where we see a lot of interest is in the combinations of products that people may not find apparent. Like everyone saw that White Claw starts growing at an incredible pace, and everyone needs to carry White Claw. But not necessarily what are the other things that White Claw is being purchased with, or how do you look at combos of products, and what might those moments be for customers, and then how do you serve up content or imagery or other things to best serve those moments. In cannabis, it's very different because you have sort of two or three major customer segments. You have the legacy customer who predominantly smokes flower. 70% of sales in California, the world's most mature cannabis market, are flower. And then you have all these new form factors like beverage and sublinguals, edibles, things that you can drop into food, and butter and sleepy time tea, and like all and wellness, and all these different categories that are emerging. But in a lot of the U.S. markets, they don't have any of those yet. So they just still have, you go to some of these new cities, all they have is flower. And so for us, being in a mature market where you have both a legacy customer base as well as a ton of new customers that are trying cannabis for the first time. There's a Forbes article that came out recently about college-age students are using more cannabis than they are alcohol. And if you think of this sort of new generation or demographic of consumer that is, I think, more open to this category, you see completely different types of customer profiles in purchasing behavior. And then how do you solve for that? So if I just like smoking weed and smoking flower, great. But then there's all sorts of people that use it for wellness. And if I can summarize all that, I'd say people generally use alcohol for one thing, right? Nobody wakes up and drinks 3 martinis to start their day, not typically. But in cannabis, you do have people that wake up and use cannabis to start their day. You have people, high-functioning professionals that use it to help with ADHD or help with performance. We have all sorts of creatives that use cannabis literally as a component of their work, not to get super high, but to help with a certain part of how they focus. You have people that use it for wellness purposes, whether it's joints or achy muscles or whatever it may be, and then you have people that use it purely recreationally. And so rather than, okay, you order alcohol, you get a little buzzed or drunk or whatever it may be, you actually do have these very radically different uses that people shop cannabis, or reasons why they shop cannabis. And so when you think about that feeding back into an experience you're trying to bring them, or product education, or even, training of retail floor associates, or things that you do in their digital experience, you just have a lot, you have a much greater breadth of use cases that you need to be surfacing for them. So we look at all of that data. I think at the end of the day in cannabis, we're trying to be the most customer-focused company in the industry. We hear a lot of these big, multi-state operators talk a lot about just their licenses and number of doors and assets and things like that. I almost never hear people in this industry talk about customers. And it's one of the most fascinating customer sets out there because it's changing so quickly, and new products for them are being introduced all the time. So we use data to try and best serve those customers to the best we can.
That's awesome. I think there's a lot of alignment also with your industry and food. Mike, I'm going to pass the floor to you. How are you capturing customer data, and how are you utilizing that data to feed and inform decisions in your go-to-market strategies?
Yeah, I mean that was basically the foundation of why we built the platform that we did. Is that so? Through whichever channel you choose to use, whether that's Focus or in store, one of our frictionless vending machines or the mini mart or delivery. Ultimately, we have a pretty good view of your purchase. Your purchases, your time, the time you purchase, the basket size, all the key data, so that we can, better, for instance, inform site selection for new stores. For instance, if we see a lot of deliveries coming from a specific zip code, obviously that can inform, where we should be locating a new store, how big that store should be based on the relative density of customers, who are the lookalike customers of that customer, right? To make sure we're making some good decisions on the real estate front. Certainly on the merchandising side, that's one of the biggest areas we're using the data is what's selling, what's not, and how do we more align to a given customer's preferences, and that's always evolving and changing in food. So, but in general, we want to leverage that data to have to provide the best possible experience and provide the right product, the right price at the right place, right? So all those things need to coalesce, and so I think one of the biggest gaps that's always been there is the in-store purchase historically, because that customer may or may not be a part of your loyalty program. They may or may not use credit card, right? So by kind of investing in the frictionless tech, we've basically digitized all in-store transactions, and you can start to understand, for instance, heat maps in the store, just like you would pages on your e-commerce website of how people sit or I guess are viewing certain pages and products, right? You can now basically get some of that same data in the in-store purchase. So effectively everything becomes an e-commerce transaction for us. And so, I think that was the last frontier, I guess you could say, in terms of that 365 view. But because we're one of the few retailers to actually lean in on this, I think we're learning a lot, gaining a lot of data that others that will put us at a competitive advantage, I think, moving forward, especially in a space like convenience that is relatively, I would say, relatively nascent and relatively not the most innovative. So we feel there's an opportunity to leapfrog a pretty large industry that's not really innovating around merchandising, around in-store experience, around technology, around mobility and new forms of mobility that are coming to the market, right? So these are all areas we're focusing on.
Awesome. Philip, I have a related question for you. How are you helping consumers choose the right product with all the customization and personalization involved in your model?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of obviously talk around personalization and customization of products. It was interesting because when I first took over the company, we had a lot of, it was built on a particular back-end technology stack so that you could come in and you could do all crazy sort of customization, right? You could twist a table and make it this, and we realized that nobody was using it, right? I mean, like the average customer, you'd get it every once in a while, you get somebody wanting to come in and kind of geek out and kind of do this, but the average customer was like, you're giving me way too many choices. Like, I don't want this, right? I mean, it's like, just like, let me pick a color, let me pick a wood, and we'll like, maybe like I can fit something that I want to make sure that the table fits in my kitchen or dining room, right? Like, and that was the extent of it. And so we went in and we really simplified things. And then even then, what happens is we'll put something on there, and then we get a call. It's like, well, I like that, but can I do it like this, right? And then they'll like something that you don't even have on there that, and they want to. We had one customer who wanted to like completely change the carving on a credenza, and our team was like, no, like it will warp. And I'm not kidding you. And we're like, all right, we're not doing this. And we're like, no, insisted. And they're like, we'll take. We don't care if it warps. We'll pay whatever. Like, it was an obscene amount of money that they wanted to pay for this item. And eventually I'm like, look, I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to be of a high quality. Mistake, we did it. What happened? It warped, like we said it was. The customer's like, it warped. Like, we told you it was going to warp. You accepted it as is, and I said, we're never doing that again. Like, if we know that we can't do something, right? But ultimately what's happening is no matter what tools we have, especially because I think of the price point that we're playing in, it always results in, it's a very high touch type of thing. So we've moved away from our business being a lot of, kind of direct to consumer, because we were spending a lot of money in digital advertising and marketing. And we just were realizing what ended up, like, the minute that we did a pop-up in November, and the minute that we had the physical store, people came in, they wanted sit down and talk to a designer, and they want to really build these types of things out. And I think it's because of, again, the customer we're targeting, right? At this point, I think eventually, as the technology allows us to make things more accessible from a price point perspective, I think it'll kind of change, I think, the dynamic. But the way that we're at right now, it really is, you still realize that how hands-on and I think, physical to us is going to be a very important component to, our retail strategy moving forward. And it's about, and it's also 3D print. A lot of the stuff is, because half of our products are completely 3D printed and made of plant resin. So people they're unsure of it. So they want to see it. They want to touch it. They're like, what do you mean you 3D print stuff? Because usually when people think of 3D printing, it tends to be more flimsy. Is it going to hold up? Especially on like outdoor stuff, the biggest question we get is like, is it, if it's made from agricultural materials and you're telling me it's biodegradable, is it like, 3 years from now, all of a sudden just going to disintegrate, in my backyard? Like, there's a lot of questions. And then I think once people see the product, then they're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like, I understand it's heavy, it's sturdy, and you can kind of go through a little bit more, which was sometimes a little bit harder, at this point in time of where we're at of educating consumers by, kind of a digital.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. I actually have a question from the audience. I'll put it out there. I'm not sure who it's directed to, but this is from Neil Cobb. How will the upcoming metaverse ideology change client needs and expectations over the long run and in the immediate term? So, for example, what role does the metaverse play in inducing customer delight? That's a good question. Mike, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I'm not going to be having too into the metaverse. We're trying to figure out the regular universe here first, in terms of.
I get that.
I understand it's a hot topic, and certainly there's probably ways to integrate that that marketing strategy, and a lot of retailers are looking at this. But for us, I think ultimately in the physical world of groceries and food, 90% of groceries are still bought in the store. E-commerce is growing, but it's ultimately, even in 5 years, still only projected to be about 82% of 82% of groceries will still be bought in the store, right? So for us, our focus again is more on creating a high quality experience, omni-channel experience, and I think where we see more potential is probably IoT and like in-store personalized offers that are tied to your location in the store and the products in the store, and personalizing offers to Mike things like that. Where in the metaverse, I'm just honestly still trying to wrap my head around it. But
Yeah.
not necessarily. I will say never, but it's certainly not a key focus area for us.
Yeah, can you hit on there?
I'll tell you, you're not alone. Lots of people are still trying to figure it out. Philip, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think sometimes when there's new technologies or new platforms and things that emerge, brands have to be careful, right? I mean, look, if you're a lifestyle brand and you're catering to a younger consumer, you should absolutely be looking and understanding and be completely immersed in this space right now, right? I mean, because I think you've got people that are kind of gravitating, moving over to it, but you don't always have to be first to market. I mean, if you look at e-commerce, and there's a lot of brands that waited and watched because it wasn't their target consumer, and they've been still very successful in that space. And I think you have to be very cautious. You should be aware of it. You should be studying it. You should be looking at it, like understanding trends. But also, if your customer and your consumer is not there, like don't go out and invest time and money into it right now. Stay on the sidelines, watch it, observe it. But like for us, I mean, our average consumer, is a homeowner, is more affluent, right? Like they're like 40 and 50-year-old individuals aren't playing around in the metaverse, all day long, right? I mean, that's just not happening. So like, for us to sit there, like, I'm not going to go develop a store in there if I don't need to, but I'm going to, of course, watch and see what's going on. If the trends start to kind of push in that direction, then those are things we'll look at. But I think, sometimes when the new shiny object kind of pops in, everyone wants to go in and be a part of it. And then, you lose focus of your core business and your core customer by chasing something that you really shouldn't be going after yet.
Yeah. And I think an important point you just made is that you have to meet your consumer where they are hanging out. Where are they engaging with your brand, right? Chris, what are your thoughts on the metaverse and the metaverse play?
I mean, I agree with Mike to a degree, right? We sell weed and alcohol, so you can't consume those things in the metaverse too easily. I think it's amazing for brand creation and things that you can do for brand affinity. To Philip's point of, if your customers are there are all sorts of very interesting experiences you could do to maybe enhance how your brand is connecting with people. Obviously, very applicable to fashion, art, a whole bunch of other industries, but I think we even saw somebody set up like the first cannabis dispensary in the metaverse, right? If you're in retail, I think it's less applicable. Like, I mean, maybe restoration hardware gets into it, and I can buy restoration hardware furniture in the metaverse from my metaverse house and all this type of stuff. But I think that I think that at the end of the day, there may be brands that we sell, for example, like alcohol brands or cannabis brands, where having some sort of presence in the metaverse may be really impactful, right? Like, people go watch and people play at a baseball game. A bunch of people go spend a bunch of time in the metaverse watching things happen, whatever. Bud Light's probably going to want their signage in there, just like they do all over the physical world. But in terms of somebody who is actually transacting and then bringing Bud Light to your door, maybe it's an interesting touch point in the future. You can order from your phone, you can order from the website, you can call to place orders, you can order it in the metaverse and have it brought to you, maybe. But we have a lot of other things that we're focusing on today. We have a team in the company that is very forward thinking about these types of things. I'm convinced that I'm just like my grandparents. Like, I'm sitting here with a pager telling you cell phones are not the future, or my cool fax machine, and I don't understand that the internet's coming or something. I might be that person, but I think much more applicable to brands than maybe to retailers at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm definitely aligned with that thought. I don't have a pager anymore, but definitely aligned. I'm going to throw out the last question. I don't see any more Q&A in the group. But what should retailers be doing, despite the vertical, to improve their innovative practices to embrace technology in retail? We do know that many retailers, especially legacy ones, are a little bit more apprehensive to enabling technology, and there is some apprehension trusting the tech. I'm going to throw this out to anyone who wants to answer. What do you think that retailers need to do today?
I guess I can jump in on the grocery side. I think it's interesting, right? I mean, as an innovative, tech-centric grocery retailer, we're very much leaning into certain technologies and experiences that some of the legacy players are kind of sitting on the sidelines, and I think that's probably a good thing, right? I think when Amazon came along with not only the Go experience, but also just more generally infusing the grocery experience with maybe some would say too much technology, that they would kind of dominate the industry overnight. And I think what we're seeing is that just never came to fruition. And you still have Walmart that, is slow and steady wins the race type of retailer, right? And I think that's benefited them. They've definitely invested in their omni-channel experience. Walmart has, and have invested in their stores and their experience and their pickup offering, but they didn't lean too heavily. So I think it's just knowing your place within the, I guess, innovation ecosystem to make sure that this technology, whether it's the metaverse or frictionless checkout or autonomous delivery, that you're not just chasing shiny objects, right? And that that what you're investing in it has core foundational business goals, and that's for us what if it impacts sustainability, if it improves customer experience, or it provides efficiency and grows margins, that those are the areas we're really investing in. And if it does do that, then even a small company, we have to be very diligent, because we do get approached by new technologies and new providers daily, and it's can be cumbersome to understand what is truly the next big thing and how people will shop in the future, or what's just again a shiny object. So I think it's just for any retailer that's investing in kind of innovative technology to be very diligent about your sourcing and your evaluation processes.
Yeah. What about you, Philip?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, I think I agree, Mike, you have to be diligent in kind of how you approach it. I mean, look, when I started a company called Beta back in 2015, and we were kind of going in and trying to kind of shake up the whole, retail model and industry. And, ultimately, pre-pandemic, we had like 30 stores globally, and we're on a really strong kind of growth trajectory because we really took this idea and this notion that the way that people were shopping was broken, right? I mean, and we were taking things, we brought everything out of the box, we made it a really immersive experience when you came into our stores and the things you could do, and we were bringing brands and technologies that were like unheard of. This was the era when things were on Kickstarter and all these things were coming out, but there was nowhere you could see them except for in an online space. And we were here now bringing them into the physical world, and we constantly had retailers coming to us, large legacy retailers. We ultimately ended up acquiring the store rights to Toys R Us and trying to reimagine that business. And Macy's invested in us, and we were working with them and did programs with Lowe's and all these industries. And one of the things that I found with each one of these legacy retailers, and the problem is that, and this is where Walmart and Target and Amazon succeed, is that when they invest in something, they go all in, right? I mean, they don't just, hey, we're going to pull a team of 3 people on this, and we're going to do this, and do like just kind of test the waters and see if this kind of works. Because what you're showing is you're really not believing in this. You're not immersing it within your company, and it becomes a footnote. And then even once you do say, oh, we're going to move forward with it, they don't invest in it. Yeah. It gets married to bureaucracy. It gets watered down because 30 different people then have their say in this, and what became something that was the reason that startups can a lot of times change things is because they're operating under completely different principles, and they're working different. And I think there's a couple, the couple of the retailers I mentioned, they embrace that and they understand that. That's why they're acquiring companies. That's why they're spinning up. When they spin up a team, they don't spin up a team of 3 people. They spin up an entire division that's going to tackle the problem. And I think if you do that, that's how you have to approach it. You can't go in, and that's where a lot of these legacy retailers, that's where they're just getting crushed. They just don't want to go in and invest in it because they still feel like their other business, well, it's good enough. Well, good enough isn't going to make it. I think when you've got companies that are willing to spend tens of millions of dollars, if not more, to go after you.
Yeah, completely aligned. Chris, in a space where there's a ton of mom and pop shops operating, what would you say to retailers looking to improve their innovative practices or embrace tech in retail?
Well, I mean, we've seen a lot of mom and pops meaningfully change, at least their opinion on the internet in the past, decade or so. A lot of them want nothing to do with online sales or anything like that, and some of the first ever partner stores on Saucy, maybe it was a store doing $500,000-$600,000 a year in walk-in sales, and in our first year together, we sent them more than that in delivery volume. Wow. And that completely changed their perspective, right? And, this might be some interesting little thing to, this is actually the larger part of my business now. I mean, I'll tell you, in cannabis, we run an omni-channel strategy. We have a retail presence throughout the state, and but out of any one of those boxes or out of our warehouses, but even out of the retail, 70+% of the orders happen via delivery or online purchasing. So, it's really interesting to see what happens to customer behavior when they do both. We see that a walk-in customer has a certain level of retention and purchase frequency. A delivery customer is a bit higher. And then when we get them to be omni, it doubles or triples. So I think it's a consumer behavior that is being adopted by the consumers. I think depending on the type of retailer that you are, if you're a big retail, I couldn't agree more with what Philip said. Most of the big retailers really struggle to adopt new technologies because, one, they either have shiny object syndrome and just kind of dabble a little bit in every new thing that comes their way. And they're not laser focused on what is really like the experience that we are delivering for our customer, and then what do we need from a technology perspective to enhance that piece of it. And on the mom and pop side, I think it's just sort of usually a general resistance to change. But those that have embraced change, I think, have done tremendously well. I think one of the biggest battles in this type of thinking is always who owns the consumer at the end of the day. Yeah. Is it the technology partner? Is it the license holder or the retailer? And that, whether it's small retail or big retail or whatever it may be, is always the big topic of debate. Whether it's Instacart or DoorDash or whether it's even Walmart powering their own stuff or whatever it may be. That's one of the most hotly, I think, sort of contested concepts of if I use too much technology, like, do they really own all my information and consumer information? Do I own it? Who do these customers really beholden to? Is it my box, my four-wall box, or is it the technology they're using? So it's interesting, but I think that's where Walmart and Amazon and certain others don't have that problem so much compared to people that are just trying to dabble with it a little bit.
Absolutely, and I would definitely add Target to that mix. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Thanks to my panel guests, Chris, Philip, and Mike. Nitin, I will hand you over the torch. And I don't believe we had any more Q&A, but if there are any questions that I missed, please feel free to spill the tea.
No, I think you guys answered it all, and I think it was a lovely, lovely panel discussion. I think the first was also great. This was also awesome. Means it was just the thought process which comes from all of you thought leaders, Mike, Phillips, Chris. This was amazing. Thank you, Lisa, for moderating this panel discussion.
My pleasure.
I'd love to see you all guys very soon in the next few events as well, and hope you will take the what I say, the automation or the intelligence or whatever will come in the next few years to the next level. Like we were discussing about the metaverse. I know this is another thing coming up. Not in every sense, but yeah, in some sense it is coming up. Especially the young generation is catching up on this. So we need to see what is there in store for us in the near future. So just to wrap up, guys, I like to thank few of our partners so that we are on the same line. So we would like to thank our technology partner, Digit 7. They have a great innovation lab of 15,000 square feet in Richardson, Texas, Dallas. And any one of you who are dropping by can always go to their office and have a look to feel that whatever we discussed today about a lot of IoT driven or cashier-less store or anything which you want to have a feel, you can go there and understand more in depth, connect with them, and suggest any aspect. You can also go through their website, that is digit7.io, and closely liaison with them. Also, we would like to thank all our community partners, speakers, attendees who came together today for enriching knowledge through this forum. We had great set of speakers since morning who came together to share thoughts. Just for your information, today's event was broadcasted in the YouTube and the Facebook channel of our company. So request all of you to go to our website, like our social media handles, go to the YouTube and see the recording anytime. Also log on to our website. We'll be sharing lots of knowledge, sharing topics, details, announcement of next events, and much more, which will help you all register and attend the same. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, which we are planning as to how technology is driving factories, supply chain, aviation, and much more. Request all of you to keep connected with us, enjoy the learning. Thanks, and take good care of yourself. Bye.